Chapter 534. The young man's mad dash came to a halt as soon as his neck was grabbed. At the same time, the flames that could burn the young man to ashes disappeared. Yichen did not want to kill the young man directly. That way, the young man could be resurrected. Once the young man was resurrected, the golden spirit pearl would run away with him. This was not what Yichen wanted to see. Even if he wanted to kill the young man, he would have to use the Godslayer, not other means. Yichen glanced at the young man who struggled a few times, but was unable to break free. He smiled faintly and then asked, "What about you, Lord Grimm?" Or? The young man was already panicking because he was caught by Yichen and could not move. Now that he suddenly heard Yichen's name, his face turned even paler. "Yi Lauda. I'm Yi Lauda. But I didn't offend you, did I?" Lord Grimm was panicking and scared. He guessed Yichen's target, but he did not know how Yichen knew his name, nor did he know how Yichen found him so quickly. Of course, what scared him the most was that the golden light shield that even the wild boss could not break was like a piece of paper in front of Yichen. When Yichen heard Lord Grimm's incomparably nervous words, he couldn't help but raise his eyebrows. He then let go of his right hand and asked, "You went to Samsara City to rob my soldiers. Is that not an offense?" Hearing this, Lord Grimm's face couldn't help but change, and then he said in surprise, The moment Yichen released his hand, he thought of running away, but he immediately gave up on the idea. He knew that he could not escape from Yichen. Yichen's ability was too incredible. Yichen looked at Lord Grimm's back and said, "Let's make a deal. You give up the golden spirit pearl, and I'll give you a Khanate level technique." As soon as Yichen finished speaking, he waved his right hand, and a Xiantian cultivation technique appeared beside Yichen. Hearing this, Lord Grimm's face darkened. He did not want to make this deal, as he was very clear about the golden spirit pearl's heaven-defying ability. That was because he was the owner of the gold spirit pearl. With the gold spirit pearl, he was invincible in the real world. Of course, that was if they didn't meet Yichen. However, this did not stop him from thinking highly of the golden spirit pearl. One had to know that he had only refined a small portion of the gold spirit pearl. Not only did it give him a protective shield that even monsters and big bosses in the wilderness could not break through, it also gave him a powerful metal elemental escape technique and some offensive metal elemental spells. As for the Xiantian level cultivation method that Yichen mentioned, although he had never seen it before, it did not hinder his judgment. It was definitely a powerful existence that surpassed the saint-level cultivation method. Even so, he did not want to hand over the golden spirit pearl. That was because he had a vague feeling that with the golden spirit pearl, his future would be limitless. Thinking of this, Lord Grimm tried hard to stabilize his heart that was beating violently because of Yichen. Then, he turned to look at Yichen and asked, "What if I refuse?" "There is only one result for refusing, and that is death." Yichen glanced at Lord Grimm, who had turned around, and said lightly. Yichen's words were very simple, but in Lord Grimm's ears, his scalp instantly went numb, and he suddenly took 3 steps back. Lord Grimm did not feel any killing intent, but he did not doubt the authenticity of Yichen's words. After a moment of silence, Lord Grimm looked at Yichen and asked in a deep voice, "People say that the general of Agile Cavalry is a cold and arrogant person who has a bottom line and will not kill indiscriminately. Is this rumor wrong?" "Basically, it's not wrong. I won't kill indiscriminately, but you seem to have ideas about me," Yichen said with a smile. When Lord Grimm heard this, his face suddenly froze. At this moment, a strong sense of regret rose from his heart. At this moment, Yichen's words sounded again. "Of course, even if you didn't have ideas about me, I wouldn't give up the golden spirit pearl, because it is very important to me." When Lord Grimm heard this, he was slightly stunned, then sighed and said, "I knew it. You definitely wouldn't give up the golden spirit pearl. Can you tell me how you found me? If I remember correctly, you should be in Luoyang now." "You will understand after you ascend," Yichen said with a smile. After that, he pointed his right hand in the air. With a buzzing sound, the space behind Lord Grimm suddenly distorted. In the next second, the dark and thick Godslayer immediately passed through the distorted space and appeared here. A strong aura of destruction spread out immediately. Lord Grimm, who was about to continue speaking, shuddered after feeling the extremely strong aura of destruction. He then turned his head to look. When he saw the dark and thick Godslayer, his pupils suddenly shrank. No one knew what grade Yi Chen's Godslayer was, and neither did Lord Grimm. However, this did not stop Lord Grimm from being frightened, because Yi Chen's Godslayer had the ability to devour souls. Every person that was stabbed to death by the God-slaying spear would completely disappear. And this was the reason why Lord Grimm was so scared. Even if it had the golden spirit pearl protecting it, he was not very confident. At this moment, Yi Chen glanced at Lord Grimm, who was frightened by the Godslayer, and said, "Don't play tricks anymore. I don't have that much patience. If you agree, hand over the golden spirit pearl now. If you don't, I'll take it myself." When Yi Chen asked Lord Grimm if he was willing to make a deal, Lord Grimm did not directly respond. He even took 3 steps back in shock. In reality, he was preparing to escape. If it were anyone else, they might not be able to tell. However, how could Yi Chen, who had been reborn, not be able to tell? In his previous life, Yi Chen had done the same thing when facing a strong enemy. Hence, Yi Chen was very clear about Lord Grimm's plan. To be precise, Lord Grimm was not willing to give up the golden spirit pearl. He knew that it would be difficult to escape, but he did not want to give up. This was also one of the reasons why Yi Chen did not kill Lord Grimm directly. Of course, the most important thing was that Lord Grimm had refined about 1/10 of the golden spirit pearl. The golden spirit pearl in this state was different from the earth and with spirit pearls from before. If Yi Chen's primordial spirit broke into the golden world inside the golden spirit pearl, it would definitely take a lot of effort to destroy Lord Grimm's remnant soul. Of course, the price Yi Chen had to pay for this was that his primordial spirit was very likely to be injured. After all, 1/10 of the golden spirit pearl's power was not some cabbage that could be casually chopped and cooked. It was also because of this reason that Yi Chen proposed to make a deal with Lord Grimm at the beginning. When Lord Grimm heard this, his expression changed. He did not expect his plan to be seen through by Yi Chen. Gritting his teeth, Lord Grimm roared angrily, "Fine, I'll give you the golden spirit pearl, but this Xiantian realm skill is mine. Furthermore, you have to give me a gold-level village creation token that can be used in the real world. Also, I want 5 heaven-level recruitment tokens, 10 sets of heaven-level equipment." Chapter 535. Okay. Hearing this, Yi Chen's eyebrows involuntarily raised as he replied. With that, Yi Chen moved his will. 1 gold village creation token, real, 5 heaven recruitment tokens, real, and 10 sets of heaven-grade equipment instantly appeared in front of Yi Chen. When Lord Grimm saw this, he glared hatefully at Yi Chen and said, "Don't play tricks. Otherwise, I won't let you go even if I become a ghost." After Lord Grimm finished speaking, he took a deep breath and let out a long breath. In the next second, Lord Grimm's face suddenly turned pale, and his right hand immediately covered his heart. 2 seconds later, M.O. Grimm opened his mouth and spat out a large mouthful of blood. At this moment, he also staggered back 3 steps. No matter how one looked at it, he seemed to have suffered a lot of damage. When Yi Chen saw this, he immediately frowned. At this moment, Lord Grimm looked miserably at Yi Chen and waved his right hand. A yellow bead instantly appeared in Lord Grimm's hand. He didn't even look at it. He directly threw the earth, yellow, and red beads his right hand at Yi Chen. "For you." At the same time, a talisman suddenly appeared in Lord Grimm's left hand, and with a bang, it burned to ashes. When Yi Chen saw this, he couldn't help but sigh. The earthy yellow and red pearls Lord Grimm tossed out were origin magnet bombs. They were the same as the earthy yellow and red pearls M.O. Yin brought out earlier. Once they exploded, they could destroy all living things within a circular area of 3 miles. Of course, this living thing referred to existences below the mortal evolution state. After all, this was the novice zone of the 3 kingdoms. No matter how strong it was, it couldn't be that strong. However, Living things within the explosion range of the magnetic bomb could still be injured if they were only at the mortal evolution state. There was no doubt about this. As for the talisman in Lord Grimm's left hand, it was a 1,000-mile teleportation talisman. After activating it, it would instantly teleport 1,000 kilometers away. If it were anyone else, they might not know what these things were. However, Yi Chun was not anyone else. He was Yi Chun, who had been reborn. How could he not know the origins of these two things? It was precisely because he knew that Yi Chun sighed. It should be known that Yi Chun did indeed want to make a deal with Lord Grimm. Unfortunately, Lord Grimm wasn't willing. Otherwise, Lord Grimm wouldn't have used these two items. Thinking of this, Yi Chun pointed at Lord Grimm with his right hand. A buzzing sound was heard. The black and thick god-killing spear instantly pierced towards Lord Grimm. At this moment, a mysterious white light wrapped around Lord Grimm. A golden light also appeared around Lord Grimm. Lord Grimm's body became illusory. This would only happen when Lord Grimm was about to be teleported away. Just as Lord Grimm was about to be teleported away, the pitch-black Godslayer arrived beside Lord Grimm. A buzzing sound was heard. Lord Grimm and the god-slaying spear instantly disappeared. Seeing this, Yi Chun pointed his left hand at the earthy yellow Yuan magnet bomb. The Yuan magnet bomb that Lord Grimm had thrown out was instantly fixed in midair. Yi Chun's body could completely resist the Yuan magnet bomb. However, Little Gold was still here. Yi Chun didn't want Little Gold to be injured by the Yuan magnet bomb. Yi Chun didn't even look at the Yuan magnet bomb that was fixed in midair. He directly stepped out and disappeared. 1,000 miles away, on top of an unknown mountain, a white beam of light suddenly descended. When the white beam of light disappeared, Lord Grimm and the Godslayer appeared here. Without waiting for Lord Grimm to come back to his senses, the black and thick god-killing spear pierced straight towards Lord Grimm. At this moment, Lord Grimm's eyes suddenly widened. How could this be? Lord Grimm never would have thought that after secretly using the teleportation talisman and successfully escaping, he would feel the arrival of death. Moreover, it was even more intense than before. Just as Lord Grimm was panicking, a poochie sound was heard. The pitch-black Godslayer directly pierced through Lord Grimm's heart. Lord Grimm's terrified expression instantly froze. He looked down. When he saw the tip of the Godslayer's spear, an indescribable chill appeared in his heart. No, I can't die, Lord Grimm thought in horror. The god-slaying spear flashed with a black light and instantly swallowed up Lord Grimm's soul. At this moment, the space on top of the mountain suddenly distorted. In the next second, Yi Chun stepped out and appeared next to Lord Grimm's corpse. At the same time, a golden bead suddenly flew out of Lord Grimm's corpse and then disappeared in a flash. Seeing this, Yi Chun snorted coldly. With a thought, the supreme grade innate spiritual treasure fall coin, instantly appeared. He then flapped his wings and chased after the golden spirit bead. In a breath's time, the treasure fall coin caught up with the golden spirit bead that had flown hundreds of miles away and suppressed it in midair. In the next second, the treasure fall coin rapidly flew toward Yi Chun on top of the mountain with the golden spirit bead. At the top of the mountain, Yi Chun looked at the treasure fall coin that was rapidly flying over with the golden spirit bead and let out a long sigh. Instead of grasping the opportunity, he had to resist. Lord Grimm's unwillingness. Yi Chun understood. Lord Grimm's resistance. Yi Chun also understood. After all, the rules of heaven and earth had changed after the meteor fell. People could continue to cultivate and become stronger, and even live forever. Because of this, there was no one who didn't desire strength and opportunities. Lord Grimm was like that, and so was Yi Chun. And the golden spirit bead was a great opportunity for Yi Chun. Yi Chun could not give it up. As for the reason, it was very simple. The golden spirit bead was one of the 5 elements spiritual beads. Yi Chun wanted to refine the 5 elements spiritual beads and then merge them into the divine body of 5 elements. In this way, after ascending to untainted land, Yi Chun would be able to rise rapidly. Therefore, Yi Chun could not give up the golden spirit bead. Even if Lord Grimm did not become Yi Chun's enemy, Yi Chen would not let go of the golden spirit bead. Of course, the truth was that Lord Grimm was not a good person. Otherwise, he would not have gone to Samsara City to kill the soldiers of Samsara City when the Golden Turban Rebellion began. However, Yi Chen did not expect that Lord Grimm could not see the situation clearly. He clearly had a chance to live, but he was unwilling to seize it. He had the ambition of an overlord. He was unyielding and dared to resist. Unfortunately, those who stood in his way must die. This world allowed the existence of an overlord, but there could only be one. Thinking of this, Yi Chen suddenly opened his eyes and then grabbed the golden spirit bead that was flying to him. In the next second, Yi Chen's primordial spirit appeared on top of Yi Chen's head. The moment the strong suction force appeared, Yi Chen's primordial spirit rushed directly into the golden spirit bead. Yi Chen's goal was very simple. He wanted to refine the golden spirit bead. The golden spirit bead was Yi Chen's opportunity. Yi Chen could not let it go. Moreover, Yi Chen could not hold on to the golden spirit bead and not refine it. He could not wait until the flame spirit bead had been refined by 1/10, or even more, before refining the flame spirit bead. Even if it was safer, Yi Chen would not choose to refine it. This was because Yi Chen did not have so much time to waste. The reason was simple. In the real world, no matter if it was a safe city or a territory built by players, the protective shield would disappear completely in 2 days. No matter what, Yi Chen had to return to the real world by then. To be precise, Yi Chen wanted to use the 2-world stone on all the soldiers of Samsara City and then arrange for soldiers to guard Samsara City in the real world. Just as Yi Chen's primordial spirit appeared in the golden world of the golden spirit bead, an extremely shrill roar sounded. Yi Chen, I want your life. Just as the voice fell, a golden light sword that covered the sky suddenly appeared and shot towards Yi Chen's primordial spirit. At the same time, an extremely strong force pressed down on Yi Chen's primordial spirit. Yi Chen could not help but frown when he felt the pressure from the golden spirit pearl and the extremely dangerous feeling that was emitted by the golden light sword that covered the sky. Damn it! After refining 1/10 of the golden spirit bead, its power was indeed different. Chapter 536. Thinking of this, Yi Chen used his mind, and a wall of fire appeared in front of Yi Chen. This was the gold world in the gold spirit pearl. Godslayer could not be brought in. Otherwise, Yi Chen would not have to care about these golden light swords. With the appearance of the wall of fire, the gold spirit pearl suppression on Yi Chen's primordial spirit was reduced. Fortunately, I refined a part of the fire spirit pearl. Otherwise, I would be in danger. Thinking of this, Yi Chen could not help but smile. At this moment, the golden light swords that covered the sky shot towards the wall of fire. Buzz, 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 dense buzzing sound could be heard. The wall of fire, which was already raging, suddenly shook and then became thin. Seeing this, Yi Chen could not help but frown. It was true that fire could suppress gold, but if there was too much gold, the fire could also be destroyed. This was not my home ground. I can't wait any longer. I have to find Lord Grimm's remnant soul as soon as possible. Otherwise, thinking of this, Yi Chen's primordial spirit moved, and an extremely powerful divine sense was released. However, even though Yi Chen's divine sense covered a radius of 10,000 miles, he still could not detect the aura of Lord Grimm's remnant soul. Noticing this, Yi Chen frowned. Damn it! This Lord Grimm was indeed the one who refined 1/10 of the gold spirit pearl. His ability to hide was really good. After Lord Grimm roared, he immediately hid. Otherwise, Yi Chen would have caught Lord Grimm's remnant soul on the spot. Of course, this was not important. What was important was that Lord Grimm's remnant soul was very good at hiding. Yi Chen's divine sense could not detect any trace of him. This made Yi Chen's balls hurt. Buzz, buzz, the wall of fire was still being weakened by the golden light swords. It would not be long before the wall of fire was destroyed. Although Yi Chen could continue to strengthen the wall of fire, it was not a good thing for it to continue like this. As Yi Chen was trying to come up with a plan, a scornful laugh could be heard. Ha ha, Yi Chen, keep being cocky. My realm isn't high enough, so I can't use too much of the gold spirit pearl's power outside. But this is the gold world. I can use it however I want. Aren't you awesome? Come and kill me." When Yi Chen heard this, he smiled coldly. He waved his right hand, and the fire wall, which had already thinned to the thickness of a finger, started to boil. Just as Yi Chen finished doing this, Lord Grimm's remnant soul laughed wildly once more. "It's useless. It's useless. This is the golden world, my world. Although I don't know why your soul is so condensed, you can't sustain it. Even if you can resist it for a while, you'll be killed by me in the end." Ha ha! When Yi Chen heard this, his eyes narrowed and a cold light flashed in them. Meanwhile, Lord Grimm's remnant soul roared again. "Angry? Ha ha ha, be angry. In a while, I'll let you know what pain and despair are. Yi Chen, the gold spirit pearl is mine. Although my soul has been destroyed by you, I'm still alive. As long as you give me time, I can recover and return to the game world. You, on the other hand, will die completely. At that time, your reincarnation city, oh no, reincarnation immortal city, will definitely become my possession. And your subordinates, your everything, and those historical beauties will all be mine." Ha ha ha! When Yi Chen heard this, he curled his lips in disdain. Yi Chen could feel Lord Grimm's hatred. Lord Grimm wanted to take revenge on Yi Chen. He wanted to kill Yi Chen and take everything away from Yi Chen. Yi Chen knew this very well. However, Yi Chen did not take it to heart. Lord Grimm was a retard. He did not understand that it was his remnant soul that was controlling the gold spirit pearl, not his complete self. To Yi Chen's primordial spirit, such a gold spirit pearl, or the gold world and the gold spirit pearl, could enter and leave as he wished. Lord Grimm's remnant soul could not stop him. Even if Yi Chen could not find Lord Grimm's remnant soul, what could he do? Yi Chen's primordial spirit could leave the gold world directly. Yi Chen was not going to give up on the gold spirit pearl, but he was not going to play around with his life either. At the very most, he would spend some time refining the fire spirit pearl and then enter the gold spirit pearl's gold world. By then, no matter how powerful Lord Grimm's remnant soul was, and no matter how well it hid, Yi Chen would use up all the power of the gold spirit pearl that he could use. Then, Lord Grimm's remnant soul would definitely be exposed. As long as Lord Grimm's remnant soul was exposed, Yi Chen could easily capture it and destroy it. Of course, given Lord Grimm's craftiness, his remnant soul might not dare to use the power of the gold spirit pearl after sensing danger. It would continue to hide, leaving Yi Chen with no way to deal with it. But even so, it would be useless. Yi Chen could forcibly refine the gold spirit pearl. Then, no matter how powerful Lord Grimm's remnant soul was, it would not be able to hide. After all, Yi Chen had a large number of Dao comprehension stones. He did not have to worry about not being able to refine the gold spirit pearl. Of course, these two methods were time-consuming. Otherwise, Yi Chen would have forcibly refined the gold spirit pearl. Why would he waste time? Therefore, Lord Grimm's remnant soul wanting to kill Yi Chen was simply wishful thinking. Thinking of this, Yi Chen suddenly froze. Then his eyes lit up. In the next second, Yi Chen frowned and increased the thickness of the firewall. "Yi Chen, you piece of trash. What's the use of this firewall? Today, I'll open your eyes and show you what it means to attack from all angles." After a loud shout, countless golden light swords appeared and surrounded Yi Chen from head to toe. There was not a single gap. Yi Chen frowned again when he saw this. Then, he leaped into the air. At the same time, a ball of scorching flames wrapped around Yi Chen's body. At this moment, the golden light swords came down from the sky. Along with them, countless golden light swords came from the ground. Buzz, buzz, buzz. A dense buzzing sound came from the flame shield around Yi Chen. In the blink of an eye, the flame shield around Yi Chen's body was reduced to a thin layer. When Yi Chen saw this, his expression changed. Without thinking, he waved his right hand, and the space in front of him began to distort. At the same time, the flame shield that was about to disappear began to boil and become stronger. In the next second, Yi Chen rushed toward the distorted space with a face full of shock. "You want to run? You're in my territory, and you still want to run? Stay here for me." A mournful shout rang out. In the next second, A huge golden sword of light with a strong aura of destruction instantly appeared beside the distorted space and ruthlessly slashed at Yichun. Found him. When Yichun saw this, his eyes opened wide. He took a step forward and instantly appeared 100 meters to his right. The instant Yichun appeared, his right hand swiped out with incredible speed. In the next second, a ball of gray smoke was caught in Yichun's hand. You tricked me. A frightened and angry roar rang out. Chapter 537. When Yichun heard this, he sneered and said, "That's right. You're too stupid. I won't accept this. I won't accept this. Yichun, you bastard, let me go if you have the guts. I'll fight you to the death." Lord Grimm's remnant soul was enraged and roared at Yichun. Yichun looked at Lord Grimm's remnant soul in his right hand and curled his lips in disdain. Stupid. Lord Grimm's remnant soul was indeed stupid. If he was smart enough, he would not have used all the power of the Golden Spirit Pearl that he could mobilize. Because once he used all his power, Lord Grimm's remnant soul would definitely not be able to continue hiding in the Golden World. Unfortunately, Lord Grimm's remnant soul hated Yichun so much that when he realized that Yichun was trying to escape from the Golden World, he did not hesitate to use all his power and give Yichun a hard blow. However, the result was that Yichun was not hurt, but Lord Grimm's remnant soul was exposed. "Yichun, do you dare to let me go?" Lord Grimm's remnant soul saw that Yichun was unmoved and even looked at him with disdain. He immediately let out a mournful shriek. Hearing this, Yichun smiled coldly. Then, he released a ball of fire without hesitation. Boom! A loud sound was heard. Lord Grimm's remnant soul was instantly ignited by the fire and turned into ashes. Yichun heaved a long sigh of relief when he saw this. Not bad, not bad. I got the Golden Spirit Pearl. When he thought of this, Yichun raised his eyebrows and took a step forward. In the next second, Yichun's primordial spirit left the Golden World. When Yichun's primordial spirit appeared outside, an extremely strong suction force appeared. Yichun's expression changed when he felt this strong suction force. Damn it! Without thinking, Yichun's essence spirit rushed into his body. If he continued to delay, even if it was just for a second, Yichun's primordial spirit would be sucked away by that extremely powerful suction force. To be more precise, if Yichun continued to delay, his primordial spirit would be forced to ascend. This was not the result that Yichun wanted to see. Although Yichun had gathered all the 5 elements' spiritual beads, Yichun had not established a country, nor had he explored the 3 Immortals' Island. He had not even obtained the 9 tripods of the state in the secret land of the underground palace. Therefore, it was impossible for Yichun to ascend to untainted land at this time. If other players knew that Yichun could have ascended a long time ago, but refused to do so, they would definitely be dumbfounded. Then, they would start cursing at him. Damn it, he was already so powerful, yet he refused to ascend. How could he not give others a chance to live? Of course, the only ones who knew that Yichun could have ascended but refused to do so were the shifters. None of the human players knew about this. Yichun's primordial spirit was extremely fast. In the blink of an eye, it returned to the Purple Mansion. The strong suction force that forced him to ascend disappeared instantly. At the same time, Yichun opened his eyes and looked up at the sky. After twitching his mouth in disdain, Yichun looked directly at the Golden Spirit Pearl in his right hand. His harvest this time was not bad. He originally wanted to search for the 5 elements' spiritual beads after exterminating the demon race. He did not expect to gather all of them in Luoyang. Could this have something to do with the Son of Providence? Otherwise, how could it be so smooth? At this thought, Yichun's eyes lit up. Damn it, it really might be. If that's the case, doesn't that mean that everything will be very smooth in the future? Just as Yichun thought about this, the system notification sounded. Ding! Congratulations to player Yichun for killing Wild Boss, Flaming Pig King. As soon as the system notification ended, Yichun was dazed for a moment. Then he smiled. Although Little Gold was at the mortal evolution state, it was sealed and could not use its power. He did not expect it to be able to kill the flaming pig king with just its body. Not bad. Not bad. Just as Ichin was thinking about this, the world notification sounded. Ding! Congratulations to player Yi Chun for being the third person to kill the level 100 wild boss, Flaming Pig King. Special reward to player Yi Chun, 50,000 gold coins. The 3 consecutive announcements caused an uproar in the entire world channel. Oh shit, what's going on? Isn't Luoyang surrounded by the demon race army? Why is there a wild boss? I find it strange too. It's true that wild bosses are monsters, but monsters from the human world shouldn't be accepted by the demon race, right? You're right. I saw a wild boss not long ago. It was eaten by a beast from the demon race. I saw it too. That's not right. Damn it. Yi Chen's army is clearly in Luoyang. Yi Chen should be there too. There shouldn't be any monsters around Luoyang. Where did Yi Chen kill the wild boss? Stop guessing. If I remember correctly, the Flaming Pig King mentioned in the world announcement should be more than 1,000 miles away from Luoyang. Damn it, that's impossible. Unless Yi Chen can teleport. Damn it, that must be it. Otherwise, how could Yi Chen run so far away? Damn it, Yi Chen is already so overpowered. He can even teleport now. What's the point? Damn it, I'm only thinking about one thing now. Is there a need to continue developing the territory? Damn it, Yi Chen will definitely fight for hegemony in the future. Damn it, I'm not sure either. Yi Chen is so strong. If he wants to take over the territory, he can just teleport over. Who the hell can stop him? Damn it. Yi Chen, you can't ignore others for your own sake. You have to understand one thing clearly. You're also a human. Moreover, the protective shield of the safe cities in the real world will be gone in 2 days. When that time comes, people can only live in the territory. So, you can't just destroy other people's territories. Yes. If you destroy other people's territories, then the territories in the real world will automatically be destroyed. You can't just ignore the lives of others for the sake of hegemony. You have to know that you're also a human. That's right, Yi Chen. I can choose not to fight for hegemony with you. I won't be your enemy, but you can't just destroy my territory. Otherwise, you'll cause the deaths of countless people. Yes. Yi Chen, we won't be your enemy, but you can't just destroy our territories as you wish. The world channel was abuzz with activity. It was constantly being flooded with messages. Yi Chen looked at the world channel that was constantly being flooded with messages and smiled coldly. Moral kidnapping? Unfortunately, it's useless against me. The players were constantly talking about this, and that on the world channel. It was all because Yi Chen's teleportation ability was too overpowered. They were afraid that Yi Chen would teleport to their territories and destroy them. Then, everything they had would be taken away by Yi Chen. Therefore, they were worried and afraid. Therefore, they were threatening Yi Chen on the world channel with the lives of humans. However, what they didn't know was that Yi Chen had reincarnated. How could he not know about the connection between the territories in the real world and the game world? At first glance, the territories in the two worlds were built with the same village creation token. But in reality, whether it was in the game world or in the real world, the destruction of one would not affect the other. Moreover, Yi Chen knew very well that among the current human players, there were definitely lords who knew about this. Their territories in the game were destroyed, but their territories in the real world still existed. After all, the territories of normal players couldn't possibly withstand the invasion of the Shifter army. And among these lords, there must be a portion of them who had built their own territories in the real world. However, the reality was that even though the world channel was constantly being flooded with messages, no one jumped out to say anything about this. Therefore, Yi Chen immediately concluded that these Lord-class players were trying to use moral coercion. They wanted to coerce Yi Chen into not touching their territories during the world hegemony. Chapter 538. The Lord-level players on the World Channel were calculating, but unfortunately, they had overlooked one thing. Even if these Overlord players' territories in the game world were destroyed, their territories in the real world would be destroyed as well. This would make Yi Chen soft-hearted. This was because Yi Chen wanted to unify the world and ascend to the great wilderness. If he didn't destroy their territories, Yi Chen wouldn't be able to unify the world. If he didn't unify the world, how could he ascend to the great wilderness? To Yi Chen, anyone who stood in his way was an enemy. If they were an enemy, Yi Chen would only choose one method: to kill without mercy. Of course, if these overlord players were willing to hand over their territories and let Yi Chen occupy them, then he wouldn't have to destroy their territories in the game world. Unfortunately, overlord players who were willing to hand over their territories basically didn't exist. After all, people were selfish, who would be willing to hand over their own benefits. If it were someone else, they might make a deal with these overlord players and give up some benefits in exchange for their support. Of course, it was also possible that they would directly say, "Submit to me and prosper, oppose me and perish." Unfortunately, Yi Chen wasn't someone else. It was impossible for him to make a deal with these overlord players, and it was even more impossible for him to compromise with them. To Yi Chen, not only would he kill all his enemies, but he also wouldn't accept any players as subordinates. Even if he ascended to the great wilderness, Yi Chen wouldn't bring any players with him. And this was the fundamental difference between Yi Chen and other players. As for the reason, it was very simple. A person's heart was hard to fathom. Especially in the world after the meteor crash, people's desires and hopes were infinitely magnified. Bringing players with him to the great wilderness was purely an act of suicide. Yi Chen was strong and had no opponents, but this was the Three Kingdoms beginner's area. Once he reached the great wilderness, it would be different. There, everywhere, there were existences stronger than Yi Chen. If Yi Chen brought players with him to the great wilderness, once the players betrayed him, then Yi Chen's foundation and everything of Yi Chen would be destroyed. It was infinitely close to 100%. There was no doubt about this. Otherwise, why would the term traitor exist? Moreover, in his previous life, Yi Chen had also seen countless Earth players who used the help of the Demon Clan or other forces that had ascended from other worlds to seize other people's territories and cave abodes. They were even willing to be lackeys. Therefore, from the very beginning, Yi Chen had never thought of taking in any players as his underlings, nor had he thought of bringing any players with him to the primordial world. Thinking of this, Yi Chen smiled coldly. Then he forced out a drop of blood essence and dripped it onto the golden spiritual pearl. In the next second, the gold spirit pearl shone brightly and absorbed all of Yi Chen's blood essence. With a buzzing sound, the golden spirit bead flew up and flew towards Yi Chen. The moment it touched Yi Chen's forehead, it disappeared. After sensing the 5 elements spirit pearls in his Zifu, Yi Chen let out a long breath. With the 5 elements spirit pearls in hand, the 5 elements divine body was not far away. Thinking of this, Yi Chen could not help but smile. Then, he used his divine consciousness to envelop the area within 1,000 miles around Luoyang. The demon beast army had given up on escaping. The demon beasts that had been fleeing in all directions began to gather. The demon beasts that had been caught by the Reincarnation City army began to fight back wildly. However, their counterattacks were completely ineffective against the Reincarnation City army's attacks. No matter what race the demon beasts were, they were all killed by the Reincarnation City army in one shot. Even if the demon beasts grew larger and leaped high in the air to attack the Reincarnation City army, it was useless. Before they could land on the ground, they were smashed into pieces by hundreds of true chi. Not bad, not bad. With the support of the will of the god of war, they were really powerful. Thinking of this, Yi Chen could not help but raise his eyebrows. Then, he pointed his right hand at the Godslayer that was stuck in the mountaintop. There was a buzzing sound. The Godslayer instantly trembled. Then, it burrowed into the distorted space and disappeared. Because Yi Chen still had the Fire Spirit Pearl, the Cosmic Bow, the Heaven-Shaking Arrow, and the Godslayer, the demon beast army knew that Yi Chen did not want them to return to the newbie zone. He wanted them all to stay here. Thus, they gave up on escaping and started to fight back. They were prepared to drag someone down with them, even if they had to die. However, although many demon beasts were fighting back, there were still some demon beasts who tried to escape. Some demon beasts even ran back to where the Godslayer had been. Yichen did not want to let any demon beast go. Thus, he placed the Godslayer 50 miles north of the battlefield to continue blocking the demon beasts from escaping. Yichen's divine consciousness scanned the battlefield. He smiled slightly. Then, he took a step forward and disappeared. The space beside the corpse of the exploding flaming pig king in the wilderness suddenly distorted. In the next second, Yichen took a step forward. Nay! A thunderous roar rang out. Yichen looked at the exploding flaming pig king's corpse. Then, he looked at the Pegasus Little Gold, who was asking for credit. He laughed and said, "You did well. When I have the chance, I will help you improve your bloodline and make you the strongest Pegasus." Nay, when the Pegasus Little Gold heard Yichen's promise, its eyes widened. Then it excitedly nodded its head. Seeing how excited Little Gold was, Yichen laughed and nodded. Then he looked at the items dropped by the exploding flaming pig king. In the next second, Yichen could not help but be stunned. Beside the exploding flaming pig king's corpse, there were 8 fragments. Apart from that, there was nothing else. Thinking of this, Yichen's right hand reached out, and the 8 fragments flew toward Yichen. When Yichen caught the 8 fragments, a system notification sounded. Ding! Congratulations to player Yichen for obtaining 9 Cauldron Treasure Map Fragment X8. Collect all 9 fragments to obtain the complete 9 Cauldron Treasure Map. When the system notification ended, Yichen could not help but laugh. Originally, he wanted to find the entrance to the underground palace's secret territory and forcefully open it. Who would have thought that the exploding flaming pig king would drop the remaining 8 and 9 Cauldron Treasure Map fragments? Thinking of this, Yichen used his mind, and a fragment flew out from his storage space. This was the 9 Cauldron Treasure Map fragment that Yichen had obtained a long time ago. As he needed 9 fragments to be useful, Yichen did not bother with it. The moment the first fragment of the 9 Cauldrons Treasure Map appeared, the 9 fragments automatically flew up and collided with each other. In the next second, a white light flashed, and the 9 Cauldron Treasure Map fragments merged together and fell to the ground. Seeing this, Yichen could not help but frown. Then, he grabbed the 9 Cauldron Treasure Map fragment with his right hand. At this moment, the system notification sounded. Ding! Congratulations to player Yichen for obtaining 9 Cauldron Treasure Map Fragment. After using it, you can enter the Underground Palace's secret territory from anywhere. Chapter 539. As soon as the system notification ended, Yichen couldn't help but let out a long sigh. Damn it, I was wondering why I felt that something was wrong. If the 9 Cauldron Treasure Map were to fall to the ground, wouldn't the secret realm in the Underground Palace be opened directly? Luckily, thinking of this, Yichen's mouth couldn't help but twitch. Yichen couldn't be blamed for thinking this way. The 9 pieces of the 9 Cauldron Treasure Map belonged to Yichen. Even after they were fused, they still belonged to Yichen. Of course, this wasn't important. What was important was that the pieces of the treasure map that could fuse on their own were considered special tools, even though they weren't considered equipment. Such things all had spirituality. To be precise, after the pieces of the 9 Cauldron Treasure Map were fused into a complete 9 Cauldron Treasure Map, they should fly back to Yichen's side and not fall to the ground directly. However, the problem was that after the 9 Cauldron Treasure Map was formed, it really fell to the ground instead of flying back to Yichen's side. That was why Yichen felt that something was amiss and immediately grabbed the 9 Cauldron Treasure Map. Otherwise, the secret realm in the Underground Palace would definitely be opened directly. This was not the result that Yichen wanted to see. After all, the secret realm in the Underground Palace had the 9 cauldrons of the ancient kingdom. Yichen would definitely go and take it, but not now. As for the reason, it was very simple. Now is not a good time to open the secret realm in the Underground Palace. Even if it was opened, it had to wait until all the demons that invaded the human world were annihilated. After all, Yichen still had a mythical level unique mission, War of Providence. Annihilate all the demons in the world within a month. Success. Reward. Innate attribute points x 300, lottery x1, recruitment order, heaven level, x 100, cauldron of heaven and earth x1. Failure, level reduced by 100. Innate attribute points randomly reduced by 300. 3 pieces of equipment randomly dropped, and territory level reduced by 3 to 5 levels. Therefore, Yi-Chen couldn't directly enter the secret realm in the underground palace at this time. If Yi-Chen went to the secret realm in the underground palace, there would be no one guarding the entrance to the novice zone of the demons. If a demonic beast gave up and ran to the entrance of the valley to try again, wouldn't that be equivalent to letting the demonic beast escape? Yi-Chen did not know if the elimination of the demons in the competition of providence included demon beasts that might escape. If it did, Yi-Chen would have failed his mission. Yi-Chen did not want to see such an outcome. At the thought of this, Yi-Chen sighed emotionally and looked at the 9 cauldrons treasure map in his hand. Who would have thought that the location of the secret realm was not fixed? Fortunately, I have the complete 9 cauldrons treasure map now. Otherwise, if I had to follow the memories of my previous life and go to the place where the secret realm opened, I would have to use my spatial ability to forcefully break open the entrance to the secret realm. Thinking of this, Yi-Chen let out a long breath and mounted his horse. Sigh! A thunderous roar immediately sounded. At the same time, the space in front of Yi-Chen suddenly distorted. In the next second, the Pegasus Shao Jin stepped into the space and disappeared in a few steps. In the valley, in front of the entrance to the beginner's area of the demon clan, the space suddenly distorted. Yi-Chen, who had left not long ago, rode out on the Pegasus Shao Jin and looked at the battlefield. In the next second, Yi-Chen nodded in satisfaction. Not bad. Not bad. They're getting more and more ferocious on the battlefield. Rumble, rumble. Tens of thousands of horses galloped, and the earth rumbled. The cavalry of Samsara City was still charging forward and mercilessly killing the demonic beasts who had nowhere to run and were fighting back desperately. Because the demonic beasts could not return to the beginner's area of the demon clan and could not escape, they became crazier and crazier. Their beasts' eyes were filled with ferocity, and their auras were violent. Unfortunately, no matter how violent and crazy they could not hide the strange look in their eyes. Their eyes seemed to be filled with fear, desperation, and madness. They seemed to be complicated, but in fact, they were all pointing to one thing. That was, the cavalry of Samsara City was too abnormal. In fact, this was the truth. The demonic beasts wanted to fight desperately, but the result was that they could not kill a single cavalry of Samsara City, even if they used all their strength. This had completely exceeded the demonic beasts' expectations. Even though they were at the same level, they were being slaughtered like ants. Even though their physical bodies were stronger, they were easily destroyed like pieces of paper. The demonic beasts could not believe this at all. However, the cruel reality told them that what they saw was true. They were really like a bunch of cabbages. In front of the cavalry of Samsara City, they were chopped to death. It did not matter if they became bigger or crazier, or if they used all their strength to fight. It was useless. Rumble, rumble. Tens of thousands of horses galloped and the earth rumbled. The cavalry of Samsara City was so powerful that it made the demon clan despair. It ruthlessly destroyed the confidence of all the demonic beasts. The demonic beasts were being killed in droves, again and again. On the battlefield, corpses were everywhere as far as the eye could see. On the ground, the blood of the demonic beasts flowed and gathered into a river, surging with the wind. The thick smell of blood in the air was accompanied by endless roars, screams, and cries of sorrow. It resounded through the vast wilderness. Rumble, rumble. Tens of thousands of horses galloped, and the earth rumbled. The cavalry of Samsara City continued to charge forward, mercilessly reaping the lives of the demonic beasts. As the cavalry of Samsara City charged forward, the demonic beasts finally broke down. They turned and ran, not daring to fight against the cavalry of Samsara City. This was because they knew that the cavalry of Samsara City was a group of abnormal people. The more they fought, the stronger they became. The more they killed, the more vicious they became. The demonic beasts did not know where to run. They did not dare to fight against the cavalry of Samsara City. They fled in all directions like headless flies. Unfortunately, it was useless. The Godslayer was in the north, the sky-shaking arrow was in the south, the fire spiritual pearl was in the east, and Yi Chun was in the west. No matter which direction they ran to, it was a dead end for the demonic beasts. As time passed, the demonic beasts completely broke down. Some sat on the ground, motionless, while others wailed. In the eyes of the demonic beasts, this invasion of the human world was a complete loss. Without exception, they were all tortured badly. In the past, they might not have known what it meant to break down and despair. But today, the most powerful man of the human race, Yi Chun, taught them a lesson. The feeling of despair was very uncomfortable. It almost drove them crazy. When the sun set in the west and the afterglow of the setting sun shone down, the battlefield quietened down. The cavalry of Samsara City also stopped at this moment. The hundreds of millions of demonic beasts that besieged Luoyang were all killed. In the valley, at the entrance of the beginner's area of the demon race, Yi Chun, who had been using his divine senses to cover the entire battlefield, smiled. At this moment, a world announcement sounded. Ding! The plot of the demon race's invasion has ended. The winner is the human race. Chapter 540. When the world announcement ended, Yi Chun couldn't help but be stunned. The shifters have all gathered in Luoyang? That should be it. Otherwise, the world announcement wouldn't be like this. That's good too. It saves me some trouble. Thinking of this, Yi Chun couldn't help but smile. At this moment, the world announcement sounded again. Ding! Congratulations to player Yi Chun for ranking first in the Shifters Invasion storyline. Ding! Congratulations to player Lu Rumei for ranking second in the Shifters Invasion storyline. Ding! Congratulations to player Sun Earnyang for ranking 10th in the Shifters Invasion storyline. A series of world announcements instantly blew up the entire world channel. F*CK. F*CK. Are you kidding me? The Shifters? So many Shifters were wiped out, just like that? F*CK. I'm still on my way to Luoyang. F*CK. This is a huge loss. If I knew this would happen, I wouldn't have left Luoyang. F*CK. If I knew this would happen, I would have been more courageous. You have to know that killing shifters will give you a lot of good stuff. F*CK. I'm so regretful. F*CK. I'm convinced. Look at Yi Chun's merit. It's in the tens of billions. There's no justice in this. F*CK. How many good things can he exchange for, Sai? You should look at the battle achievement leaderboard. Yi Chun is also number 1. F*CK. Comparisons are odious. What's the use of being number 1? I specifically looked at the merit leaderboard and battle achievement leaderboard. There's nothing good there. Idiot, that's your merit. You have 2 little battle achievement. I can see mystic grade equipment just by looking at it. Do you know what mystic grade equipment is? Ignore that fool. However, speaking of which, damn it, Yi Chun has so many contributions and so many military exploits. Doesn't that mean that he can exchange them for a lot of good things? Waha, Boss Yi Chun is awesome. Let me ask you, are you convinced? Hee, they have no choice but to accept it. That's right, Boss Yi Chun. This little brother here is your hardcore fan. Now that the Yao race has been destroyed and Boss has become so strong, can you take in a little brother now? That's right, Boss Yi Chun, please take me in. I promise I'll be loyal to you. Big brother Yi Chun, this little sister is 16 this year and is a pure virgin. I beg big brother Yi Chun to take me in. Blue Moon Pavilion, looking to purchase warhorses, village creation tokens, genuine, gold, city wall building blueprints, genuine, and various high-level equipment forging blueprints. If you want to buy anything, please contact me. The 7-Star Pavilion is looking to purchase all high-grade equipment and blueprints at a high price. If there's anything you want to sell, feel free to contact me. Limitless Palace sincerely invites General Piao Qi to be our guest. In addition, we will purchase all high-grade items at a high price. There are no restrictions on the type and quantity. Yi Chen glanced at the world channel, which was constantly flooding the screen, and then frowned. The players were jealous, but Yi Chen didn't care. This was already the norm. The players wanted to be Yi Chen's underlings, but Yi Chen didn't mind because people's hearts were unpredictable. However, Yi Chen didn't choose to ignore the powers that suddenly popped up on the world channel. This was because in Yi Chen's previous life, these powers that jumped out only officially appeared after he reached the ancient era. At first glance, there wasn't anything special about them. After all, players could also form their own powers in the ancient era. However, Yi Chen, who had been reborn, was very clear that these powers weren't simple. Not only did their members ascend later, but they also ascended together. After ascending to the ancient era, their development speed was extremely fast. The key was that they were the first group of players to build caves and immortal cities. Only after they built their caves and immortal cities did players know that there were caves and immortal cities in the ancient era. It could be said that without these powers, players would have to wait for a long time to know what caves and immortal cities were. Until Yi Chen was reborn, these powers had already surpassed the old powers, such as the Saint Hall, Heaven and Earth Alliance, Yanhuang Alliance, etc. It was also because of this reason that Yi Chen didn't choose to ignore these powers when he saw them on the World Channel. Of course, Yi Chen paid attention to these powers not because he was afraid of them or because of their future achievements, but because of their mysteriousness. In Yi Chen's previous life, since these powers could rise so quickly in the ancient era, they definitely had a deep foundation before they ascended. Otherwise, they wouldn't have been able to rise so quickly. However, what Yi Chen couldn't understand was that these powers that should have had a deep foundation didn't appear in the Three Kingdoms novice region and ascended very late. The most ridiculous thing was that these forces had risen rapidly after arriving in the Untainted Land. Of course, these were the findings of some players who had too much time on their hands, as well as some players who were shocked and had their own ideas. Unfortunately, be it the board players or the old powers that were wary of these powers, no matter how much they investigated, they couldn't find any more information about these powers. Of course, this wasn't important. What was important was that the mysterious powers that should have appeared in the ancient era had jumped out. He didn't expect them to jump out now. Did they want to dominate the world? Or, looking at their shouts, it seemed like they wanted to dominate the world. Otherwise, how could they collect the village-building tokens, war horses, and forging blueprints? But why did he still feel that something was wrong? Thinking of this, Yi Chen couldn't help but frown. They ascended late, but they rose up quickly, and they knew about the cave and the immortal city. No, these powers definitely knew about the ancient era. No, if they knew about the ancient era, how could they ascend so late? Ascended late? Could it be Three Immortal Island? Thinking of this, Yi Chen's eyes suddenly widened. Damn, these powers definitely knew about the Three Immortal Island. Otherwise, why would they be willing to ascend late and start building caves and immortal cities as soon as they ascended? Yes, it must be like this. Damn, the Three Immortal Island is mine. Thinking of this, the cold light in Yi Chen's eyes suddenly exploded, then disappeared in a flash. At this moment, the system's notification suddenly sounded. Ding! Congratulations to player Yi Chen for completing the mythical level unique mission, Battle of Providence. Special reward to player Yi Chen. Innate attribute points x 300, lottery draw x1, recruitment token, heaven level, x100, cauldron of heaven and earth x1. As soon as the system's notification ended, Yi Chen's eyes lit up. Damn! I finally got the cauldron of heaven and earth. Thinking of this, Yi Chen hurriedly looked at the storage space. When Yi Chen saw the small, ancient cauldron in the storage space, the corners of his mouth couldn't help but curl up. In the next second, the cauldron of heaven and earth appeared beside Yi Chen. Glancing at the cauldron of heaven and earth, Yi Chen grabbed it with his right hand and forced a drop of blood essence to drip on it. Chapter 541. When Yi Chen's essence blood dripped onto the cauldron of heaven and earth, The ancient cauldron suddenly shook and then shot out thousands of starlight. The world that was bathed in the setting sun brightened up immediately. Buzz, buzz. After a few tremors, the cauldron of heaven and earth emitted an aura that could swallow the sun and the moon and reverse the universe. At the same time, a mysterious connection appeared between Yi Chun and the cauldron of heaven and earth. After feeling the connection with the cauldron of heaven and earth, Yi Chun couldn't help laughing wildly. The innate treasure, the cauldron of heaven and earth, belongs to me. Awesome. No wonder Yi Chun was so excited. After all, the cauldron of heaven and earth was an innate treasure. It had the powerful ability to return to its original state and turn acquired objects into innate ones. With this, Yi Chun would be able to convert the postnatal treasures and postnatal weapons he obtained into innate treasures. Even if it was an ordinary weapon, Yi Chun could use the heaven and earth cauldron to upgrade it. Furthermore, he could upgrade it significantly. To put it simply, after Yi Chun ascended to the immortal realm, Yi Chun's army could be equipped with high-grade equipment directly. They didn't need to fight monsters or refine special equipment. Take the heaven-grade equipment that the Samsara City army would soon start refining. As long as these heaven-grade equipment were refined by the cauldron of heaven and earth, they could skip the ranks of magic weapons and become spiritual weapons directly. Although spiritual weapons were not as good as fairy weapons and divine weapons, they were far superior to heaven-grade weapons. To be precise, there was no comparison between the two at all. Heaven-grade weapons were among the top in the mortal world, but they were still ordinary. On the other hand, spirit tools had long since transcended the mortal world and were even more powerful than magic tools, not to mention the heaven-grade weapons of the mortal world. The weapons and equipment in the untainted world were ranked from lowest to highest. Magic weapons, spiritual weapons, magic weapons, fairy weapons, divine weapons, acquired spiritual treasures, acquired absolute treasures, innate spiritual treasures, innate absolute treasures, chaos spiritual treasures, and chaos absolute treasures. Among them, even magic weapons were far more powerful than heaven-grade weapons. A heaven-grade weapon wouldn't be able to split open a mountain even if it was exhausted to death. Of course, an artifact wouldn't be able to do so either. However, an artifact could blast open a cave with a single strike. Therefore, a heaven-grade weapon could not be compared to a magic artifact, let alone a spirit artifact of a higher grade. Now that Yi Chun had the cauldron of heaven and earth, he could directly refine a heaven-grade weapon into a spirit-grade weapon. Compared to those players who had ascended with heaven-grade weapons, his advantage was obvious. Of course, the use of the cauldron of heaven and earth was not limited to increasing the grade of equipment. Most importantly, it could turn something rotten into something magical and turn the acquired into the innate. Regardless of whether it was the acquired weapons, acquired treasures, or refined items, they could all be directly upgraded to the innate stage through the cauldron of heaven and earth. This was the most heaven-defying characteristic of the cauldron of heaven and earth. One had to know that Xiantian grade treasures, even the most trashy ones, were tens or even hundreds of times more powerful than Hotian grade treasures. Moreover, the quantity was constant, so it was impossible to refine them. However, it was different with the cauldron of heaven and earth. He could refine as many pieces of Xiantian grade equipment as he wanted. When others were showing off with immortal artifacts, divine artifacts, and even acquired spiritual treasures, his subordinates would be scared to death if they had an innate grade weapon each. At the thought of this, Yi Chun couldn't help but raise his eyebrows. Then he focused his mind. In the next second, the countless items that were dropped by the demonic beasts on the battlefield instantly rose into the air and flew rapidly toward Yi Chun. At the same time, the Fire Spirit Pearl, Sky Quake Arrow, and Godslayer that were blocking the east, south, and north of the battlefield flashed and disappeared. Rumble. Countless players on warhorses rushed to the edge of the battlefield. When they saw the dazzling equipment and cultivation techniques that covered the sky, they were all stunned. Damn! So many equipment, so many cultivation techniques. Damn it, what's going on? Why are the equipment and cultivation techniques dropped by the demonic beasts flying by themselves. What's so strange about it? Don't forget what realm Yi-Chen is at now. Damn it, he can even fly. How difficult is it for him to control objects to fly? Sigh, what a pity. I was thinking of rushing over as soon as possible to snatch some cultivation techniques and equipment. That's right, I was planning to do the same. After all, the battlefield is so big, and the hundreds of millions of demonic beasts died so quickly. No matter how many soldiers Yi-Chen has, it's impossible for him to clean up the battlefield in such a short time. Who would have thought that Yi-Chen would not play by the rules? Then what should we do next? Damn it, the demonic beasts have all been killed by Yi-Chen. How are we going to level up? What else can we do? Continue to kill monsters in the wild and get equipment. Are you waiting for Yi-Chen to sell his cultivation techniques and equipment? He'll probably sell them. Look at the equipment and cultivation techniques flying in the sky. There are more than tens of millions of them. Yi-Chen can't use that much, right? Who the hell knows? I don't care. I'm going back to my territory. Let's quickly resume production. Damn it, my territory has long been razed to the ground by Jin. F***ck. Sigh, my territory was destroyed by the demonic beasts. It wasn't easy for me to level up to a town, but it's gone just like that. The players who came to the battlefield chattered among themselves. Some left directly, some stayed where they were, and some headed for Luoyang. In the valley, in front of the entrance to the demonic beast's novice zone, Yi-Chen, who was collecting the equipment and cultivation techniques that blotted out the sky, was slightly taken aback. Then, he looked at the group of players who came to the battlefield. Yi-Chen's divine sense covered the entire battlefield. Naturally, the players' words could not escape Yi-Chen's senses. It was precisely because he heard the players' conversation that Yi-Chen looked over. It's not impossible to sell equipment and cultivation techniques. After I ascend, these things will be useless to me. Moreover, even if I auction off the Heaven-class weapons and Saint-class cultivation techniques, they won't be able to fight against the Samsara City soldiers who have switched to Spirit-class equipment. No, I can't sell too many Saint-level cultivation techniques. I can only sell a little. It won't be a good thing if I create a large number of Saint-level generals. I don't lack money. I can sell spiritual stones, but I can't bring them from the real world to the game world. As for materials, they have to be at least immortal level. They can't possibly have materials of that level. I can sell enlightenment stones and void stones, but I don't need a lot of them. That's right, there are also spiritual herbs. With spiritual herbs, the Samsara City soldiers can still rapidly increase their cultivation before Dongda's chaos. At this thought, Yi-Chen's eyes lit up. After Yi-Chen collected all the equipment and cultivation techniques, Yi-Chen looked directly into the inventory. When Yi-Chen finished looking at the equipment and cultivation methods in his storage space, he opened the world channel without hesitation and sent out a message. Tomorrow, I will hold an auction in Luoyang. The auction items will be gold, diamond, yellow, mystic, earth, and heaven-level equipment, king, emperor, and saint-level cultivation techniques. The only currency to be used for the auction will be enlightenment stones and spiritual herbs. Chapter 542. As soon as Yi-Chen's words appeared on the world channel, which had been constantly scrolling, suddenly stopped. In the next second, the world channel was in an uproar. F***ck. F***ck. Yi-Chen, are you telling the truth? Are you really going to auction it? Idiot, since Boss Yi-Chen said it, it's definitely going to be auctioned. How dare an idiot like you doubt Boss Yi-Chen? F***ck your mother. Saint-tier cultivation techniques and heaven-tier weapons aren't cabbages. What's wrong with me doubting it? Idiot, who is Boss Yi-Chen? He's the #1 person of the human race, the Great Han Empire's general of agile cavalry. Is there a need to joke about this? Stop arguing. Didn't you see the currency Yi-Chen mentioned? I know about spirit herbs, but what the F***ck is a Tao Comprehension Stone. I know about Tao Comprehension Stones. I saw it when I was exchanging for battle merits. As long as you use a Tao Comprehension Stone, you'll enter Tao Comprehension mode for 1 minute. F***ck. What Tao Comprehension mode? And it can only last for 1 minute? Isn't this a scam? I also saw the introduction of Tao Comprehension Stones. At first, I thought it was just a scam. I didn't expect Yi Chun to point out that it can be exchanged for. It looks like this thing is very useful. Nonsense, you don't need to say it. Everyone can guess that Tao Comprehension Stones aren't simple. But the F***CK, the problem is, what's the use of Tao Comprehension Stones? Does anyone want to exchange for one and give it a try? Give it a try, my ass. I only have enough battle merits to exchange for 2 Tao Comprehension Stones. I can only exchange for 3. F***CK. I can't even exchange for one. I didn't even see it. F***CK. Everyone, don't exchange for Tao Comprehension Stones. This thing is definitely a treasure. Otherwise, Yi Chun wouldn't point out using it as currency. Idiot, the Tao Comprehension Stone is a treasure, but compared to Saint-Tier martial arts and Heaven-Tier equipment, it's nothing. What's the use of a 1-minute Tao Comprehension mode? I think so too. Without a sacred cultivation method, don't even think about becoming a sacred general. If you can't become a sacred general, you won't be able to reach the mortal evolution state like Yi Chun. The World Channel was in an uproar as it was flooded with comments. It was a lively scene. Yi Chun glanced at the World Channel, which was constantly being updated, and raised his eyebrows. In his previous life, people had exchanged for Tao Comprehension Stones. However, other than the major powers, no one dared to exchange for them. This time, there would probably be quite a number of them. Thinking of this, Yi Chun couldn't help but smile. The Tao Comprehension Stone itself wasn't a big secret. As long as the war merit rankings and merit rankings were open for exchange, there would definitely be people checking it out. Some people would even try to exchange for a Tao Comprehension Stone and then use it. After that, those who used the Tao Comprehension Stone would enter the Tao Comprehension mode. The difficulties they encountered in cultivation would also be solved with one touch. Moreover, the players would also discover that the cultivation techniques they possessed would also be upgraded by 100%. However, such a situation wouldn't occur if they used it again. This was due to the limitations of the cultivation method itself and the number of Tao Comprehension Stones that could be used. Of course, only a small portion of people could discover this characteristic of the Tao Comprehension Stone, and most of them were the leaders of the major powers. This was because they had far more war merit than ordinary people. This was enough to support their waste. Yi Chun took the initiative to point out the Tao Comprehension Stone and even designated the Tao Comprehension Stone as the currency. Other than Yi Chun needing the Tao Comprehension Stone, it was also related to the powers that discovered the secret of the Tao Comprehension Stone. In Yi Chun's previous life, many powers had purchased the Tao Comprehension Stone, but in the end, not many people used their war merit and merit to exchange for the Tao Comprehension Stone. This was because those powers used gold coins to purchase the Tao Comprehension Stone. Although the players needed gold coins, they weren't that desperate. This was different from the beginning of the game. After experiencing the Golden Turban Rebellion and the Demon Invasion, the players were more inclined towards equipment and cultivation methods. These two were also needed by the major powers, so they couldn't use the Tao Comprehension Stone to exchange for them. As a result, in the end, the number of Tao Comprehension Stones that appeared in the beginner's area of the Three Kingdoms was extremely small. Furthermore, they were scattered in the hands of the major powers. Yi Chun was naturally aware of this after his rebirth. Therefore, Yi Chun brazenly pointed out the Tao Comprehension Stone and even used cultivation methods and equipment to tempt individual players and players from the major powers. Although those powers could discover that the Tao Comprehension Stone wasn't simple, they could only see the superficial use of the Tao Comprehension Stone. They couldn't imagine that the Tao Comprehension Stone had a heaven-defying effect on the comprehension of laws and the refinement of connate spiritual treasures. And this was Yi Chun's advantage. Of course, the massive amount of cultivation methods and equipment was also Yi Chun's advantage. Even those powers will be tempted. Yi Chun was very sure of this, because at this moment, there were almost no players who had Saint-Tier cultivation methods. Even if they used the Tao Comprehension Stone and upgraded their cultivation methods to Saint-Tier, they wouldn't give up on Heaven-Tier equipment. Moreover, after the Demon Invasion had all fought in groups. There were quite a few players who could kill demon beasts, but there were very few who could kill demon beasts. Therefore, there weren't many Saint-tier cultivation methods and Heaven-tier equipment dropped by the players. And this was only on the bright side. Yi-Chen even suspected that the players didn't drop any Saint-tier cultivation methods or Heaven-tier equipment at all. This was because Yi-Chen had killed the demon invasion too ruthlessly and too quickly. Before the players could get used to the demon invasion's group tactics, Yi-Chen had already wiped out all the demon invasion. Those powers that had discovered the benefits of the Tao Comprehension Stone would probably fly into a rage by now. Thinking of this, Yi-Chen couldn't help but smile. At this moment, a world announcement suddenly sounded. Ding! The top 10 players on the War Achievement ranking and the top 10 players on the Merit ranking will head to Luoyang to receive their rewards. Once the world announcement ended, it instantly attracted a group of envy and jealousy. This couldn't be helped. The players weren't stupid now. They naturally knew the benefits of having an official position in the game world. However, no matter how envious they were, there was nothing they could do. The top 10 players on the War Achievement ranking and the Merit ranking were already fixed. The players could only look on enviously. Yi-Chen glanced at the bustling world channel and patted the Pegasus Xiao Jin's head. Nay! A thunderous nay sounded instantly. In the next second, the Pegasus Xiao Jin took a step forward and walked into the distorted space. After a few steps, it disappeared. On the battlefield where the Reincarnation City Army was, Yi-Chen, who was riding on the Pegasus Xiao Jin, suddenly appeared. At this moment, a swoosh sound was heard. Zhao Yun, Dian Xiong, Guan Er, Zhang San, Zhang He, Gao Shun, Zhao Meng, Chu Yi, Gao Lan, and the 41 million Reincarnation City cavalry all dismounted and knelt on one knee. Greetings, Lord. Chapter 543. At the same time, Gui Yi and Tian Feng, who were standing beside Zhao Yun, Dian Xiong, and Guan Er, bowed and greeted Yi-Chen. Greetings, Lord. Yi-Chen looked at his subordinates, who were covered in blood, and nodded with a smile. Then, he said, You did well. Return to the Reincarnation Immortal City first. I'll reward you according to your contributions when I return. Yes, Lord. When Zhao Yunzheng, Dian Xiong, Guan Er, Gui Yi, Tian Feng, and the others heard this, they all smiled and hurriedly replied. Hearing this, Yi-Chen chuckled and nodded his head before a thought flashed through his mind. In the next second, a huge space that looked like a mirror in the sky started to distort. After a breath of time, a huge island suddenly flew out of the distorted space. The island was huge, and its bottom was shaped like an awl. On the island, there were tall mountains and trees. It was a magnificent sight. At the edge of the battlefield, among the players, a man who was stretching his back suddenly looked up. In the next second, he exclaimed, F***CK. What's that? As soon as he finished speaking, countless players looked up and instantly went into an uproar. Reincarnation Immortal City. That's the Reincarnation Immortal City. One of them was stunned when he saw the huge island in the sky. Then he screamed, Damn it, it's really the Reincarnation Immortal City. But why is the Reincarnation Immortal City here? I didn't see it in front. It doesn't matter. Damn it, I just want to know what Yi-Chen is trying to do. Why did he bring the Reincarnation Immortal City here? Who says it doesn't matter? Damn it, this is Yi-Chen's Reincarnation Immortal City. It's scary enough that the Reincarnation Immortal City can fly. If it can move around without anyone noticing, then it's over. No one can compete with Yi-Chen. It's useless even if they join forces. Join forces? Are you kidding me? Do you think that Yi-Chen is afraid of others joining forces because he doesn't have the Reincarnation Immortal City? Listen to my advice. If Yi-Chen wants to fight for hegemony, you should surrender as soon as possible. I have long since lost the will to compete, especially with Yi-Chen. Unfortunately, Yi-Chen does not accept underlings. Otherwise, I would have directly given the territory to Yi-Chen. It's not impossible. Can't you see it now? Yi-Chen doesn't trust others at all, so he'll play however he wants. There's still some time before the Vassal Tournament, so he should take advantage of this time to level up. That's right. Conquering the world is the business of those big forces. Small lords like us shouldn't get involved. It would be great if I could visit the reincarnation immortal city. Damn it, I wonder if I can live forever in there. Due to the sudden appearance of the reincarnation immortal city, the players were discussing fervently. However, Yi Chun, who was about to teleport his subordinates back to the reincarnation immortal city, was slightly taken aback. Not bad. The lore players are finally open-minded. This will save me a lot of trouble. Thinking of this, Yi Chun waved his right hand. In the next second, hundreds of distorted spaces appeared around the reincarnation city army. Yi Chun looked at the distorted spaces and shouted, "Return to the city." When the 241 million reincarnation city cavalry heard this, they shouted in unison, "Yes, my lord." Millions of people shouted in unison, their voices shaking the sky. When Yi Chun heard this, he chuckled and nodded. In the next second, the reincarnation city army divided into hundreds and headed toward the distorted spaces. Yi Chun looked at the reincarnation city army that was leaving and then looked at Zhao Yun, Zheng, Guan Er, Zhang San, and the other generals. He said, "After returning, rest for 2 days." Not long after, Yi Chun paused when he reached this point, after which he frowned. This was because Yi Chun remembered the information about the secret realm of the underground palace in his previous life. To be precise, it was information about Qin Shi Huang. In Yi Chun's previous life, the secret realm of the underground palace ended with Qin Shi Huang becoming a zombie emperor. Then, he led millions of zombies and ascended to the Primordial land. No one knew where he went. Even when Yi Chun was reborn, the ascended Qin Shi Huang had never shown his face. Of course, the most important thing was that Qin Shi Huang became a zombie emperor. Previously, Yi Chun did not think much about it. After all, when the players entered the secret realm of the underground palace and were killed, the strength of the terracotta army was only at the king level or saint level. However, when Yi Chun thought about the secret realm of the underground palace, he suddenly felt that something was wrong. This was because zombie emperors were not ants that could be casually stepped on. In order to become a zombie emperor, one had to be a zombie king. The strength of a zombie king was the same as Yi Chun's nirvana realm. However, in Yi Chun's memories from his previous life, Qin Shi Huang was just a corpse. He was not even a zombie. This was also the main reason why Yi Chun suddenly frowned. Zombie emperor, zombie. In his previous life, when the secret realm of the underground palace opened, countless players rushed in. However, they were killed by the terracotta army. Their blood formed a river. After that, Qin Shi Huang was reborn and became a zombie emperor. Then he led millions of zombies and ascended to the Primordial land. No one knew where he went. Damn, why does it feel like something is wrong? If those terracotta army were zombies, then it would be dangerous to enter the secret realm of the underground palace. Thinking of this, Yi Chun's face suddenly turned gloomy. Yi Chun was not afraid of zombies or zombie emperors. Even if Yi Chun's guess was right, Yi Chun could still break through the secret realm of the underground palace and snatch the 9 cauldrons of the ancient kingdom. However, if that was the case, Yi Chun's idea of using the secret realm of the underground palace to train his troops would be greatly discounted. After all, zombies were mortal evolution states. The strongest soldiers in Samsara City, the Samsara Legion, were only saint-level generals at this moment. Although most of the Samsara Legion soldiers were saint-level generals at the peak stage, they were still not enough to face mortal evolution states, especially zombies which were undying and indestructible. Damn, he would wait and see. If it really didn't work, he would use the Samsara Legion's White Tiger formation to clear the underground palace. Thinking of this, Yi Chun let out a long sigh. Then he looked at Zhao Yun, Dian Xiong, Guan Er, Zhang San, and the others who were confused. Then he said, "Go back and rest. Soon, there might be a tough battle to fight." "Yes, Lord." Zhao Yun, Dian Xiong, Guan Er, Zhang San, and the others' eyes lit up when they heard this. They quickly bowed and saluted. They were generals and naturally did not like to be idle. Now that they heard Yi Chun's words, how could they not be excited? Yi Chen glanced at his excited subordinates and nodded with a smile. To Yi Chen, it was a good thing that his subordinates liked to be on the battlefield. Of course, Yi Chen was satisfied. Zhao Yun, Dian Xiong, Guan Er, Zhang San, and the others saw this and bowed to Yi Chen again. Then, they got up and walked toward the distorted space. Gua Yi and Tianfeng looked at each other, then looked at Yi Chen together and bowed, saying, "Brother Yi, thank you. Lord, please resign." Chapter 544. When Yi Chen heard Gua Yi and Tianfeng's words, he was slightly taken aback. Then he frowned. Gua Yi and Tianfeng were persuading Yi Chen not to resign because they really wanted Yi Chen to resign. Yi Chen could tell this. After all, Gua Yi and Tianfeng were loyal to Yi Chen. No matter what they did or said, it was for Yi Chen's sake. They would never harm Yi Chen. However, the problem was that they were persuading Yi Chen to resign. It would be strange if there wasn't a problem. Of course, the problem didn't lie with Gua Yi and Tianfeng. It came from outside. Could it be? At this thought, Yi Chen frowned again. He looked at Gua Yi and Tianfeng and asked, "Did the army chase us all the way to Luoyang City when we were exterminating the demonic beasts? Or when the army of Samsara City was exterminating the demonic beast army?" Yi Chen's consciousness had been covering the battlefield. Naturally, he knew that Lu Hong had climbed up the walls of Luoyang City. If the army of Samsara City had chased the demonic beast army all the way to Luoyang City, Lu Hong would have definitely seen them. And if Lu Hong saw the cavalry of Samsara City, Lu Hong would definitely be wary of them. The army of Samsara City had a total of 2,410,000 soldiers. With such a large number, all of them were equipped with high-quality equipment. Furthermore, the cavalry of Samsara City was ferocious. How could Lu Hong be at ease? This was also the reason why Yi Chen asked this question. After all, this was ancient times. It was not a good thing to make the emperor wary. If Lu Hong really saw the army of Samsara City, Lu Hong would definitely be wary. Then, he would make a series of arrangements to deal with Yi Chen. For example, he would transfer Yi Chen from a military officer to a civil officer. It was a promotion in name, but a demotion in reality. Or they could find a random reason to remove Yi Chen from his position. Of course, based on Lu Hong's personality, it was more likely that he would let Yi Chen go to Luoyang alone and give him a high official title. Then, he would let Yi Chen guard Luoyang and take away Yi Chen's military authority. No matter what the outcome was, it would be disadvantageous to Yi Chen, and it was not something that Yi Chen wanted to see. Although Yi Chen wasn't afraid, and Yi Chen had the ability to sweep through the world, Yi Chen couldn't do that. This was because Yi Chen's goal was to gather the qi of heaven and earth, and then ascend to the untainted world. Once Yi Chen took action in advance, a portion of the heaven and earth providence would definitely be lost. This was not the result that Yi Chen wanted to see. Therefore, even if Yi Chen took action, he would only do so after Lu Hong was dead and the vassal contest began. Of course, it was still a little early to say this, but this didn't stop Yi Chen from guessing. Yi Chen didn't know the specific reason why Gua Yi and Tianfeng had persuaded Yi Chen to advance in order to retreat and voluntarily resign. However, Yi Chen knew very well that something that could affect Yi Chen's hegemony had definitely happened, and it all pointed to Lu Hong. Otherwise, Gua Yi and Tianfeng wouldn't have said that, and Yi Chen wouldn't have asked that question. "Your Highness, the army has not approached Luoyang, but His Majesty has sent Great General He Jin to lead troops to investigate." Gua Yi hurriedly bowed after hearing Yi Chen's question. Yi Chen couldn't help but raise his eyebrows when he heard this. It was good that Lu Hong hadn't seen it with his own eyes. Lu Hong was indeed a fatuous ruler. But if Lu Hong had seen the tyrannical and abnormal strength of the Samsara City's army with his own eyes, then no matter what Yi Chen said, even if he gave Zhongli a gift so that Zhongli could fool Lu Hong, it would be useless. Lu Hong definitely wouldn't leave Yi Chen alone. Then, he would make a series of arrangements to target Yi Chen. If Yi Chen didn't resist, then he would fall into Lu Hong's trap. If Yi Chen got angry and attacked directly, then he would lose part of the heaven and earth providence. Fortunately, it was Yi Jin who had seen it, not Lu Hong. Then the matter wouldn't be so serious. At this thought, Yi Chen smiled, then looked at Guo Yi and said, Feng Xiao did well. Feng Xiao, you did well. Yi Jin cannot die for the time being. Yi Jin was Yi Chen's enemy, but Yi Jin couldn't die for the time being. Because of his fight with Zhang Li, Dong Da entered the capital and led to the plot of Dong Da's rebellion. After that, the feudal lords fought for hegemony. To put it simply, Yi Jin was one of the chess pieces that pushed the great Han dynasty to destruction. Therefore, Yi Jin couldn't die, but not now. As for Yi Chen praising Guo Yi, it was because Guo Yi did not directly attack Yi Jin. Otherwise, Guo Yi wouldn't have persuaded Yi Chen to retreat in order to advance and take the initiative to resign. Of course, this was also because Guo Yi and Tianfeng knew Yi Jin's role. Otherwise, they wouldn't have let him go. After all, this was a battlefield where there were countless demon clans. Guo Yi, a superclass historical official, and Tianfeng, a first-class historical official, could easily kill Yi Jin, who had just left the city. After hearing Yi Chen's praise, Guo Yi couldn't help but smile. Then he bowed and said, Master, have you thought of a reason for your resignation? Hearing this, Yi Chen couldn't help but stare at Guo Yi, and then he said, Tell me quickly. Yes, master. Seeing Yi Chen's eyes, Guo Yi couldn't help laughing embarrassedly, and then he continued, My lord, His Majesty's fear of you comes from the fact that your merits are too high, and also from the strength of your army. You don't have to worry about the former, because the merits have been distributed to Dongda and Lu Ji. As for the latter, you only need to make a ruin in the original place of the reincarnation immortal city, and then leave more than 10,000 people there. Feng Xiao, do you mean that His Majesty will send people to Yuzhou to investigate the situation of the reincarnation immortal city? Yi Chen frowned slightly, and then he asked. Guo Yi nodded, and then he bowed and said, Yes, master. His Majesty is muddle-headed, but he won't sit by and do nothing when it comes to the stability of the great Han dynasty. Even if Zhang Li persuades him, His Majesty won't easily dispel his doubts. At this point, Guo Yi hesitated, and then he bowed and said, Master, the reincarnation immortal city still has a heaven-level teleportation formation. Should we close it directly? Guo Yi hesitated because Yi Chen would build a subsidiary teleportation formation in the expeditionary village in the subsidiary territory. After all, the expeditionary village had Millennium Dark Ironwood, and adding a little during the forging process could increase the grade of the equipment by 1. It was very useful. Once the teleportation formation in the reincarnation immortal city was closed, the subsidiary territory's teleportation formation would not be able to teleport over even if it was built. This was because the subsidiary teleportation formation in the reincarnation immortal city was the only way to teleport over. It was impossible to teleport over from other places. In this way, it would affect Yi Chen's plan to change the equipment of his army. This was the reason why Guo Yi was so hesitant. However, the teleportation formation in the reincarnation immortal city had to be closed. Otherwise, the people sent by Lu Hong would definitely be teleported to the reincarnation immortal city through the teleportation formation in the Imperial Palace. It's okay, just close it directly. It won't affect anything, Yi Chen said with a smile when he heard this. Guo Yi was stunned when he heard this. Tianfeng, who was beside him, was also stunned. In the next second, the two of them simultaneously thought of Yi Chen's special ability to control space. In addition, the reincarnation immortal city had the ability to fly. The combination of these two was not as simple as 1 + 1. It really didn't matter whether there was a teleportation formation or not. At the thought of this, the two of them smiled and bowed. Master is wise. Chapter 545. Hearing this, Yi Chen chuckled and nodded his head before a thought flashed through his mind. In the next second, the corpses of the beasts on the battlefield flew into the sky and towards the reincarnation immortal city. Guo Yi and Tianfeng were stunned for a moment before they smiled at each other. Clearly, they had guessed Yi Chen's intentions. Otherwise, they would not be like this. Yi Chen looked at the corpses flying towards the reincarnation immortal city and smiled. He then looked at Gua, Yi, and Tianfeng and said, "Quickly return to the reincarnation immortal city. Close the teleportation formation. As for the original location of the reincarnation immortal city, send someone to decorate it. Even though it's fake, make it look real. Sprinkle some beast blood and throw some corpses there. Even though the flesh of the beasts can increase your strength, don't be stingy. When others see it, they will believe that the reincarnation immortal city has been destroyed by the beasts. That's right. Leave behind another 10,000 soldiers and a portion of the commoners to wait there. When someone comes to investigate, pack up and put on a show." After knowing the strength of the reincarnation immortal city's army, Lu Hong would definitely be wary of Yi Chen. If Yi Chen resigned and retreated, with Zhang Li's help, everything would be fine. However, Lu Hong would still send someone to investigate the reincarnation immortal city. There was no doubt about that. Even though Yi Chen wasn't afraid, he still had to do what he had to do. To be more precise, Yi Chen wanted to fake the reincarnation immortal city. Only when the reincarnation immortal city was reduced to ruins and its strength was greatly reduced could Lu Hong's wariness be dispelled. This was the main reason why Yi Chen asked Gua Yi to do this. "Yes, Lord. Lord." Gua Yi and Tianfeng exchanged a smile at Huang Xiaolong's words, then bowed in greeting. Yi Chen nodded and waved his hand. Seeing this, Gua Yi and Tianfeng bowed once more, then stepped into the distorted space. Yi Chen looked in the direction of Luoyang City and dismounted. He patted Little Gold's head and said, "There's no war for now. Return to the reincarnation immortal city." Huff, huff, huff. A thunderous roar rang out. In the next second, Pegasus Xiao Jin rubbed its head against Yi Chen's and headed towards the distorted space. When Yi Chen saw this, he couldn't help but smile. Then he walked forward. With a single step, Yi Chen disappeared. Outside Zhang Li's residence in Luoyang, space suddenly distorted. In the next second, Yi Chen took a step forward and reappeared. "You? Who are you?" someone exclaimed. The one who spoke was a guard from Zhang Li's residence. His face was filled with disbelief and shock. He rubbed his eyes as he spoke. No matter how he looked at it, he looked like he was seeing things. Yi Chen glanced at the guards in Zhang Li's residence. Before he could say anything, an indescribable cry of surprise suddenly rang out. This servant greets the great general of agile cavalry." A young eunuch rushed out of Zhang Li's mansion with a face full of ecstasy. When Yi Chen heard this, he immediately looked at the young eunuch. Then, he recognized the young eunuch's identity. It was Sandazi. The reason why Yi Chen could remember Sandazi was because he represented Zhang Li and specially went to Samsara City to pull strings. Otherwise, Yi Chen wouldn't have remembered this young eunuch. Looking at the young eunuch's ecstasy, it seemed that Zhang Li had decided that he was on their side. That was good too. It saved him a lot of trouble. When he thought of this, Yi Chen couldn't help but raise his eyebrows. Then he asked, "Is Zhang Changshu in the residence?" Yes. Great general of agile cavalry, please come in." When the young eunuch Sandazi heard this, he was instantly overjoyed. Then he shouted in an extremely cordial manner. As he shouted, he bowed deeply and invited Yi Chen in. Yi Chen nodded. Then, he followed Sandazi and walked towards Zhang Li's residence. Not long after, Yi Chen arrived outside the hall of Zhang Li's residence. Before he entered the door, he saw Zhang Li rush out in ecstasy. "Great general of agile cavalry, we are honored by your presence. Please forgive me for not going out to meet you." Zhang Li was very happy and excited at this moment. This was because Luoyang's crisis had been resolved. It was also because of what Jin said when he returned to Luoyang after checking the battlefield. The great general of agile cavalry has swept through the demon clan's army and will soon annihilate all the demon clans. What did it mean to annihilate all the demon clans? It was a great merit. Although the white tiger and the vermilion bird had appeared and killed more than half of the demon clans, the great merit had been reduced. However, there were still many demon clans left. This point was seen by the emperor of the Great Han Dynasty, Lu Hong, and the soldiers guarding the city. Of course, this was not important. What was important was that Jin was ordered to investigate what he said after returning to the city. The great general of Agile Cavalry is leading the troops to annihilate the Demon Clan's army and will soon win. This shocked Zhang Li to the point of disbelief, and then he was overjoyed. One had to know that he had previously boasted in the imperial court that only the great general of Agile Cavalry, Yi Chun, could save Luoyang. For this reason, he did not hesitate to risk his life and was prepared to personally go out of the city to report to the great general of Agile Cavalry, Yi Chun, and ask Yi Chun to come to Luoyang's rescue. Of course, this was only Zhang Li's excuse and not his original intention. However, Lu Hong did not directly refuse. Zhang Li had no choice but to personally go out of the city. Fortunately, when he arrived at the city gate, the vermilion bird and the white tiger appeared, and the Demon Clan's army began to flee. Otherwise, Zhang Li would have really left the city. Of course, this was not important. What was important was that Zhang Li's words were proven to be correct. Moreover, the Great Han Empire's great general of Agile Cavalry, Yi Chun, was indeed unparalleled in the world. He had resolved the crisis in Luoyang and also saved Lu Hong's life. Such a contribution was as great as the sky. Although this credit was not Zhang Li's, in Zhang Li's opinion, Yi Chun's contribution was no different from his, because Yi Chun was promoted by him. Of course, what made Zhang Li even more excited was that Yi Chun had made him proud, and it was a very big one. One had to know that no one in the imperial court looked up to Zhang Li. They all thought that he was a treacherous official who should be killed. Now, with the rebellion of the Golden Turban and the invasion of the Demon Clan, the entire imperial court was helpless. However, the great general of Agile Cavalry, Yi Chun, who had been promoted by Zhang Li, had turned the tide and exterminated the invading Demon Clan. If this was not making Zhang Li proud, what else could it be? That was why Zhang Li was so happy and excited. Now that Yi Chun had personally come to visit, Zhang Li was even more happy. As for the reason, it was very simple. When Yi Chun came to Luoyang, he did not go to see anyone else but Zhang Li. From this, it could be seen that Yi Chun was one of his own. When Yi Chun heard Zhang Li's unique sharp voice, goosebumps suddenly appeared all over his body. It couldn't be helped. Eunuchs, especially eunuchs who were inexplicably excited, did not have a pleasant voice. Yi Chun tried his best to calm the disgust in his heart. He smiled and cupped his fists. I wouldn't dare. Of course, great general, quickly, please come in. When Zhang Li heard Yi Chun's own tone, he was even more overjoyed. He hurriedly opened his mouth and invited Yi Chun into the house. Yi Chun smiled and nodded, then walked into the hall. After greeting him again, Yi Chun sat in the guest seat. After seeing Yi Chun sit down, Zhang Li immediately said with a smile, "The great general of Agile Cavalry is indeed the marquee champion of the Great Han Empire. Throughout history, only the great general of Agile Cavalry can command troops like a god, unparalleled in the world. I admire you very much." Chapter 546. After hearing Zhang Li's flattering words, Yi Chun smiled awkwardly and then clasped his hands. "Zhang Changshu, you flatter me. I dare not compare myself with the sages of the past." Seeing Yi Chun's awkward look, Zhang Li covered his mouth and chuckled. Then he said, "General of Hussars is too modest." "I'm not lying. Everyone in the world knows about General of Hussars. Even His Majesty praises General of Hussars, saying that General of Hussars is a peerless general in both ancient and modern times." Hearing this, Yi Chun let out a mocking laugh before falling into silence. No matter how one looked at it, he seemed to have something on his mind. Zhang Li, who was sitting in the main seat, saw this and couldn't help but be stunned. He asked in confusion, "General of Hussars, why?" Yi Chun had led the army to quell the Golden Turban Rebellion, and then led the army to exterminate the demonic beasts. He had solved the crisis in Luoyang and saved the emperor of the Great Han Dynasty, Lu Hong. Yi Chen's contribution was unprecedented. This should have been a joyous occasion, but Yi Chen had a lot on his mind. How could Zhongli not be suspicious? Yi Chen glanced at the puzzled Zhongli, and then smiled bitterly a few times before opening his mouth to speak. Does Zhang Changsher know that Samsara City has been destroyed by the demon clan? What? When Zhongli heard this, he stood up with a tongue and asked in surprise. If it had been in the past, Zhongli would not have valued Samsara City at all. But now, Zhongli had completely regarded Yi Chen as an extremely important ally. The stronger Yi Chen was, the more prestige Zhongli had in the imperial court, and the straighter he would be. But now Yi Chen said that Samsara City had been destroyed by the demon clan. This was not what Zhongli wanted to hear. As for the reason, it was very simple. Samsara City was Yi Chen's territory and the foundation that supported Yi Chen's army. If Samsara City was destroyed, Yi Chen's money and food would inevitably be greatly reduced. No matter how strong Yi Chen's army was, without these two things, they would be doomed. It was for this reason that Zhang Li was so anxious. Yi Chen glanced at Zhang Li, who was in shock and disbelief. He nodded heavily and continued, "That's right, Zhang Li. Indeed. This he also just received the news." When Zhang Li heard this, he was silent for a moment. Then, he looked at Yi Chen and said seriously, "Don't worry, General Yao Qi. I will take care of all the supplies that the army of Samsara City needs." F***CK, Zhang Li, this great eunuch, is really treating me as one of his own. He actually contracted the army's provisions and didn't even mention any conditions. F***CK. Luckily, I know what kind of person this guy is. Otherwise, I would really be touched. Thinking of this, Yi Chen gave Zhang Li a grateful look, then shook his head helplessly. "General Piaoqi, you don't believe my words?" Zhang Li was stunned when he saw Yi Chen shaking his head, and then asked. When Yi Chen heard this, he sighed again. Then, he clasped his hands and said apologetically, "That's not the case. Zhang Changsher is willing to help me, and I am really grateful. But after this battle, the army of Samsara City is almost gone." Alas! What? When Zhang Li heard this, his eyes suddenly widened, and then he shouted loudly. Yi Chen's words really shocked Zhang Li. If Samsara City was destroyed, then so be it. The army was still there, and it was not impossible to maintain it. At most, it would cost more money and food. Zhang Li was still able to afford these expenses. Moreover, as long as Zhang Li provided money and food, Yi Chen, one of his own, would definitely not run away. Because Zhang Li controlled the lifeline of Samsara City's army, Yi Chen had to obey orders even if he wanted to. But what Zhang Li didn't expect was that not only was Samsara City destroyed, but also Yi Chen's army. This was no small matter. Zhang Li was counting on Yi Chen to intimidate the civil and military officials in the imperial court and show off his wisdom and strength. If Yi Chen's army was almost gone, the civil and military officials in the imperial court would be less afraid of Yi Chen. Similarly, their fear of Zhang Li would also be greatly reduced. Just when Zhang Li was in shock, Yi Chen nodded and then sighed. Although the army of Samsara City was large, and it went smoothly in the beginning, towards the end, the demonic beasts began to go berserk. Their bodies grew bigger and their strength soared. If the soldiers didn't fight bravely, I'm afraid I would have been. Alas, bang! When Zhang Li heard this, he sat down heavily on the chair. Why did it turn out like this? Why did it turn out like this? Zhang Li was puzzled and unwilling, and then he felt relieved. Zhang Li couldn't help but feel relieved. Zhang Li knew how strong and ferocious the army of the demon clan was. Zhang Li was especially clear about how terrifying the demonic beasts were after their bodies grew larger. As for why Zhang Li knew this, it wasn't complicated. This was Luoyang, the capital of the Great Han Empire. All information about the demon clan would be gathered in Luoyang. As the most trusted eunuch of the Great Han Emperor, Lu Hong, how could Zhang Li not know about the demon clan? Moreover, Zhang Li had climbed up the city walls of Luoyang not long ago and witnessed the ferocity of the demon clan with his own eyes. Therefore, Zhang Li had never doubted Yi Chen. It was also for this reason that Zhang Li felt relieved after being puzzled and unwilling. It was already shocking that Yi Chen's army of Samsara City could annihilate the demon clan's army. It would be unbelievable if they didn't suffer any losses. However, this was not what Zhongli wanted to see. After all, Zhongli was still counting on Yi Chen to intimidate the civil and military officials in the imperial court. Yi Chen glanced at Zhongli, who had a complicated expression on his face, and then said, "Zhang Changshu, I have something to ask Zhang Changshu for help. I wonder if it's possible? General of Agile Cavalry, feel free to speak your mind. You don't have to be polite with me." Hearing this, Zhongli was slightly stunned and then said with a smile, in Zhongli's opinion, although Yi Chen's Samsara City had been destroyed and Yi Chen's army was few left, Yi Chen, the general of Agile Cavalry, was real. As long as Yi Chen was there, he could build an extremely powerful army in the future. It didn't matter even if Yi Chen couldn't build an army that was the same as his. As long as Yi Chen was one of us, it was fine. He had to help him and try his best to help him. After all the civil and military officials in the imperial court looked down on Zhongli. It was not easy to find such a one of us. How could he give up so easily? It was also because of this consideration that Zhongli quickly recovered his incomparably amiable smile. Hearing this, Yi Chen sighed and then cupped his fists and said, "When the demon clan invaded, I did everything I could. Although I killed the demon clan's army, the losses were too heavy. I don't have the face to face the soldiers who died in the battle, and I don't have the face to face the people who died in Samsara City. Therefore, this Yi earnestly requests Secretary Zhang's help in resigning from His Majesty. No, General of Agile Cavalry, please don't take off your armor and return to the fields." Zhongli was shocked when he heard this. He didn't even think before he hastily opened his mouth and shouted. Chapter 547. Zhongli didn't expect that Yi Chen's help would be to help Yi Chen resign. What a joke. The eunuch system finally had a powerful person to support them. How could he resign so casually? Zhongli knew that the eunuch system had become much more confident after Yi Chen became one of them. Even the General He Jin, who often challenged Zhongli, didn't dare to go against the eunuchs. He lowered his head when he saw Zhongli. Although He Jin still challenged Zhongli from time to time, he was much weaker than before. If Yi Chen really resigned, then Zhongli's confidence in the royal court would be cut by a large half. This was not the result that Zhongli wanted to see. It was for this reason that Zhongli was frightened. Yi Chen, the great general of Agile Cavalry of the Great Han Empire, had just made a peerless military achievement. The eunuch system was just about to rise. How could Yi Chen resign? How could he resign? Yi Chen looked at the frightened Zhongli and let out a long sigh. Then he said, "Zhang Changshu, you should talk to His Majesty. If His Majesty allows, I will retire. Now that the Golden Scarf Rebellion has been eliminated and the demon race has been wiped out, the Great Han Empire should have no more wars. It doesn't matter whether I'm in the imperial court or not. No, General of Agile Cavalry, the dead can't be brought back to life. People have to look forward. Even if General of Agile Cavalry doesn't think for yourself, you have to think for the Yi clan." When Zhongli heard this, his expression suddenly changed, and then he hurriedly said, Zhongli was really afraid of Yi Chen now. Why would he resign from the position of General of Agile Cavalry, Governor of Yuzhou, and Marquis Champion? Even if his territory was destroyed and his army was crippled, it didn't matter. Since he was able to create the current scale, he could rebuild it even if it was destroyed. There was no need to be discouraged. As soon as Zhongli finished speaking, he suddenly thought of something and his eyes lit up. He hurriedly looked at Yi Chen and said again, "I heard that the General of Agile Cavalry hasn't married yet. Why don't I help the General of Agile Cavalry find a wife?" Zhongli was also thinking about the Yi clan that Yi Chen belonged to. There was only Yi Chen in the Yi clan. Thinking about the Yi clan was nonsense. Since it was nonsense, then wouldn't it be fine to create a family for Yi Chen? How to create a clan? Simple. If he were to matchmake Yi Chen, then let Yi Chen get married and have children, wouldn't Yi Chen have a family? When that time came, Even if Yi Chun did not think for himself, he would still have to think for his descendants. Then, wouldn't his thoughts of resigning be dispelled? Yi Chun, who was sitting in the guest's seat, was stunned when he heard this. Damn it, why did Zhongli think of matchmaking? F***ck, if I had known this would happen, I wouldn't have continued. Great, if I didn't agree, there would be problems. But if I did, what if Zhongli planted a spy for me? Thinking of this, Yi Chun's heart immediately sank. Zhongli, who was sitting in the main seat, was overjoyed when he saw Yi Chun in a daze. He hurriedly looked at Third Disease, who was obediently waiting for orders at the door, and asked, Third Disease, quickly go and find out which family's daughter is beautiful and unmarried. When Third Disease heard this, he hurriedly came to the main hall and bowed with a smile. Lord, don't you think it's a coincidence? This servant really does know of such a person. Not long ago, this servant heard that Duke Xiao of Lujiang County had 2 daughters. Their names were De Qiao and Xiao Qiao. Rumor has it that De Qiao has the talent to cause the downfall of countries and cities. Xiao Qiao is not inferior to De Qiao in any way. In fact, she is even more beautiful. Yi Chun, who was thinking about how to answer Zhongli, was stunned when he heard Third Disease words. F***ck. It's actually De Qiao and Xiao Qiao. That's not right. According to historical records, the 2 of them are only a few years old. Just as Yi Chun thought of this, Zhongli, who was sitting in the main seat, suddenly had his eyes light up. Then, he looked at Yi Chun and asked, General of Agile Cavalry, are Duke Xiao and Xiao Qiao agreeable? F***ck. How can I not be satisfied? De Qiao and Xiao Qiao are super beauties in history. If I'm not satisfied, then it would be strange if it was someone else who said this. I might have directly agreed. But the one who wants to matchmake is Zhongli. How can I let Zhongli do as he pleases? If I agree, then all my previous efforts will be wasted. It would be strange if other people don't treat me as part of Zhongli's faction. Thinking of this, Yi Chun suddenly smiled. Then, he looked at Zhongli and cupped his fists. Thank you, Zhang Changshi, for your concern. I would like to personally meet these 2 ladies before making a decision. Yi Chun looked like he was satisfied no matter how one looked at it. Moreover, his words were pleasing to the ear. After Zhongli heard this, he immediately laughed loudly and asked, Of course, of course. Then, General of Agile Cavalry, do you still want to resign? When Yi Chun heard this, he immediately hesitated. When Zhongli saw this, he immediately let out a sigh of relief. Zhongli was afraid that Yi Chun would insist. Now that Yi Chun was hesitating, it meant that Yi Chun's thoughts of resigning had been mostly dispelled. Thinking of this, Zhongli was about to continue persuading when Third Disease, who was obediently standing in the hall, suddenly looked at Zhongli and bowed. Sir, I heard many commoners discussing the General of Agile Cavalry on the streets. They said that the General of Agile Cavalry's contributions were as great as the heavens. The commoners of the Great Han Dynasty were all saved by the General of Agile Cavalry. When Zhongli heard this, he immediately frowned and was about to get angry. After all, Zhongli was talking to Yi Chun, but Third Disease, this little eunuch, suddenly interrupted. It was simply rude to the extreme. However, in the next second, Zhongli was stunned. After a few breaths of time, Zhongli came back to his senses. He then looked at Yi Chun and sighed. General of Agile Cavalry, you and I are not outsiders. Why do you have to deceive me? After saying this, Zhongli looked at Yi Chun with incomparable hidden bitterness, causing Yi Chun to have goosebumps all over his body. How could Yi Chun not know why Zhongli said this? It had to be known that Yi Chun had come to find Zhongli precisely because of this. Of course, it didn't matter if Zhongli knew. This wasn't a big deal to begin with. Yi Chun also didn't think that Zhongli would be kept in the dark. However, he couldn't say this out loud. After all, great contributions, Sheikh the ruler wasn't something good. It was fine to know, but it couldn't be casually said. Otherwise, it would be disrespectful. Otherwise, Third Disease wouldn't have used the praise of the commoners on the streets to describe this phrase. Yi Chun looked apologetically at Zhongli, then clasped his hands and said, Zhang Changshu, the reason why I want to resign is indeed related to this. However, what I said before isn't false. If I don't resign, I will have to start all over again. Although I still have my official position, when I think of those dead soldiers and commoners, I feel like there's a thorn in my heart. I can't eat or sleep in peace. Alas. Chapter 548. Of course, Yi Chen was lying. Not only was Samsara City not destroyed, but it had also evolved into Samsara Immortal City. Even the army of Samsara City was not damaged at all. However, Zhongli did not know this. The most important thing was that Zhongli did not doubt Yi Chen at all. In Zhongli's opinion, Yi Chen could not be lying when he said that Samsara City had been destroyed, because he could tell whether it was true by sending someone to check it out. There was no need to doubt it. Zhongli also did not think that Samsara City's army had suffered heavy losses. After all, Zhongli knew how ferocious the demonic beasts were. No matter how powerful the army of Samsara City was, it was impossible for them to crush the endless demonic beasts of the demonic tribe. Therefore, Zhongli did not doubt Yi Chen's words at all. In addition, Yi Chen's expression and tone were on point. Therefore, Zhongli was even less suspicious. And this was also the result that Yi Chen wanted to see. After all, Yi Chen was here to trick Zhongli into helping him. If Zhongli did not believe him, how could he let Zhongli trick Lu Hong? As for Yi Chen coming to Zhongli, it was also because he had no choice. After all, this was ancient times, and it was the last years of the Han Dynasty. If he did not go to Zhongli and simply went to the imperial court to meet Lu Hong and then resign, it would be really bad. Because in this way, Lu Hong, who knew the strength of the army of Samsara City, might agree to Yi Chen's request out of fear, even if he knew that Samsara City had been destroyed and that there were not many soldiers left in Samsara City. This was not the result that Yi Chen wanted to see. After hearing Yi Chen's words, Zhang Li, who was sitting in the main seat, was silent for a moment. Then, he looked at Yi Chen and said, "General of agile cavalry, if you don't think for yourself, you should think for your children. Am I right?" Hearing this, Yi Chen's face suddenly showed a hesitant expression. When Zhongli saw Yi Chen's hesitant expression, he immediately breathed a sigh of relief. "General Yao Qi, you don't have to worry about the reconstruction of Samsara City. Although I'm not rich these years, I've received some good things." After saying this, Zhongli waved his right hand, and a diamond village creation token appeared in his hand. Seeing the village creation token in Zhongli's hand, Yi Chen was stunned. F***CK. This damn eunuch really does have some goods in his hands. Although the diamond village creation token couldn't compare to the god village creation token, it was still the best village creation token under the god village creation token. The capital of the Great Han Empire, Luoyang, was built with a diamond village creation token. Village creation tokens of this grade were extremely rare and hard to find. Even Yi Chen was no exception. It had to be known that Yi Chen had been blessed with great fortune and was now the son of destiny. He had killed so many monster beasts and so many golden scarf generals, but none of them had dropped. One could imagine how hard it was to find a diamond village creation token. Of course, Yi Chen didn't care about this diamond village creation token because Yi Chen had dropped a god village creation token in the beginning, and it was the only god village creation token. Therefore, the diamond village creation token wasn't very attractive to Yi Chen. However, this didn't stop Yi Chen from being surprised. Just as Yi Chen was surprised, Zhongli signaled for Third De Zi to hand the diamond village creation token to Yi Chen. After receiving Zhang Li's instructions, Third De Zi hurriedly stepped forward and took the diamond village creation token. Then, he respectfully handed the diamond village creation token to Yi Chen with a smile. Yi Chen hesitated for a moment before taking it. Yi Chen didn't need the diamond village creation token. After all, Yi Chen's reincarnation city was built with the even more awesome god village creation token. Moreover, it had now evolved into reincarnation immortal city. It wasn't important to Yi Chen whether he had the diamond village creation token or not. However, This didn't stop Yi Chun from thinking about selling the Diamond Village creation token. That's right, selling it. A territory built with a Diamond Village creation token was far stronger than a territory built with a normal village creation token. This was because the Diamond Village creation token had powerful characteristics. It could bring all kinds of powerful additional attributes to the territory. For example, it could increase the spawn rate of the population, increase the comprehension, increase the cultivation speed, increase the defensive power of the buildings, and so on. There are all kinds of effects, but they could only be found out after they were used. However, this didn't hinder the power of the Diamond Village creation token, nor did it hinder the attraction of the Diamond Village creation token to players. Players knew that Yi Chun would conquer the world, and they knew that no one could stop Yi Chun. However, there were still some players with ambitions. No matter how strong Yi Chun was, there would always be some people who wanted to compete and rob. Even if no one thought that they could compete with Yi Chun in the game, the Diamond Village creation token could still be used in the real world. After all, the real world was the foundation of the players. If the real world wasn't safe, then there would be nothing left. And the Diamond Village creation token was much stronger than the unrated village creation tokens, as well as the silver and gold village creation tokens. Therefore, no matter what the purpose was, the Diamond Village creation token would inevitably cause the players to go crazy. And this was the fundamental reason why Yi Chun wanted to sell the Diamond Village creation token. Of course, the premise was that the Diamond Village creation token had the word true in it. The moment Yi Chun received the Diamond Village creation token, the system's notification rang out. Ding! Congratulations to player Yi Chun for obtaining the Village creation token, Diamond True. When the system notification ended, Yi Chun couldn't help but raise his eyebrows. Not bad, not bad. It really did have the word true in it. Now, there was one more to sell. Who knew how many enlightenment stones he would get? No matter how many, it would be a free win. Thinking of this, Yi Chun looked at Zhang Changshi and cupped his fists. Many thanks, Zhang Changshi. Ha ha ha. As long as General Yaoqi likes it, that's good. Since that's the case, I'll go to the palace now and tell His Majesty. As for General Yaoqi's worries, there's no need to worry at all, Zhang Li said happily. Since that's the case, then I'll leave everything to Zhang Changshi. Yi Chun let out a long sigh and cupped his fists. Hearing this, Zhang Li was overjoyed. He stood up and said, "We're on the same side. There's no need to be so polite." Saying this, Zhang Li looked at Third Dizi and shouted, "Third Dizi, take good care of General Yaoqi. Third Dizi, take good care of the great general of agile cavalry. If you dare to neglect him, I will skin you alive." Yes, this servant obeys. Third Dizi beamed with joy when he heard this. Seeing this, how could Yi Chun not know that Zhang Li wanted him to stay for a meal? If it were someone else, it would be fine, but Yi Chun wasn't interested in eating with Zhang Li. Without waiting for Zhang Li to open his mouth, Yi Chun said apologetically, "The delay in building up the reconstruction of the territory is too late. Otherwise, if too much time passes, it might cause a mutiny. This he will take his leave now. I hope that Zhang Changshi can understand." The population of a player's territory could be full or excessive, but it couldn't be without a territory. If there was no territory, or if the territory was destroyed, the civilians and army in the territory would inevitably leave. It was because of this reason that Yi Chun used this as an excuse. Chapter 549. When Zhang Li heard this, he was slightly taken aback. Then he nodded and said, "What General Piaoqi said is true. We can't be careless in rebuilding the territory. Since that's the case, I won't keep General Piaoqi here. When the territory stabilizes in the future, I will definitely personally come to apologize." When Yi Chun heard this, he couldn't help but sigh. Then he said apologetically. When Zhang Li heard this, he was immediately overjoyed. Then he covered his mouth and chuckled. "What apologize? General Piaoqi, we're family. You're treating me as an outsider." Zhang Li's words were filled with joy and happiness. After all, Yi Chun said it as if he was one of them. His tone and expression didn't seem fake at all. For Zhang Li, who had always treated Yi Chun as one of them, this was exactly what he wanted to see. When Yi Chun heard Zhang Li's words, he laughed and said, "Zhang Changshi, then I really treat this place as my own home." Of course, of course. I'm looking forward to seeing General Piaoqi come home every day." When Zhang Li heard this, his eyes suddenly lit up. Then he said excitedly. Yi Chun nodded with a smile on his face. Then he cupped his fist and said, "Since that's the case, then it's settled. It's settled. It's settled." When Zhang Li heard this, he hurriedly nodded and replied. When Third Dazi heard this, he immediately beamed with joy and bowed. "Congratulations, Your Excellency. Third Dazi, your mouth is really sweet. Here's a reward." Zhang Li laughed. Then he took out a gold brick and threw it to Third Dazi. When Third Dazi saw this, he hurriedly reached out and caught it. Then he bowed excitedly and said, "Thank you, sir, for your reward." When Yi Chun saw this, he waved his right hand and a gold brick suddenly appeared in his right hand. He said with a smile, "Zhang Changshi is so generous. I can't be stingy." Third Dazi catch. AI. Thank you, General Piaoqi, for your reward. When Third Dazi heard this, he was even more excited. He hurriedly received the gold brick that Yi Chun tossed over and bowed with incomparable joy. When Zhang Li saw this, he couldn't help but laugh. After a while, he looked at Yi Chun and said, "General of Agile Cavalry, I will go to the palace to see the Emperor. In any case, I will not let He Jin, that shameless old thief, frame General of Agile Cavalry. I'm not busy." When Yi Chun heard this, he chuckled. With a wave of his right hand, 100 chests of gold, silver, and jewelry appeared in the hall. Although Zhang Li treated Yi Chun as one of his own and was willing to work for Yi Chun had to give him some benefits, especially when he knew that Zhang Li was extremely greedy and despicable. To put it simply, this was mutual benefit, or rather, the exchange of favors. Of course, to put it bluntly, it was money that paved the way. Just as Yi Chun had expected, Zhang Li's eyes immediately revealed a look of surprise when the 100 chests of gold, silver, and jewelry appeared in the hall. Yi Chun didn't wait for Zhang Li to speak and directly said, "Zhang Changshi, this is a small gift from this Yi to Zhang Changshi. Zhang Changshi, you must accept it. Otherwise, this Yi really can't casually visit and drink in the future." When Zhang Li heard this, he was slightly stunned. Then, he looked at Yi Chun and said seriously, "Okay, I'll accept it." When Yi Chun saw this, he chuckled and nodded. Then, he said, "It's getting late. Zhang Changshi wants to enter the palace. This he has to deal with the matter of rebuilding the territory. In that case, Zhang Changshi, please." When Yi Chun finished speaking, he gestured for them to go out together. Zhang Li saw this, laughed, and said, "General of Agile Cavalry, please." When Yi Chun saw this, he chuckled and nodded. Then, he and Zhang Li left Zhang Li's residence together. When they reached the main street, Yi Chun cupped his fists and then walked out of the city under Zhang Li's smiling gaze. Although Yi Chun walked out of the city like this for show, the result of leaving the city would not change. After all, Yi Chun said that he wanted to rebuild the territory. There was no way to rebuild the territory in Luoyang City. As for giving the village creation token to his subordinates and letting them build it, it wasn't impossible. However, it wasn't suitable now. Because the war had just ended, apart from the generals, no one was allowed to enter the city. This was a strict rule that no one could ignore. It was also because of this reason that Yi Chun directly left the city. Otherwise, it would be too fake. After lying to Zhang Li for so long, Yi Chun didn't want to fail at the last step. After Yi Chun left, Zhang Li rushed directly to the palace. To Zhang Li, Yi Chun was very, very important. He couldn't afford to have the slightest mishap. Because of the eunuch system, there was only one general, Yi Chun. Moreover, he was so awesome that he could dominate the world. Zhang Li couldn't let anyone else, or more accurately, He Jin, trample on Yi Chun. The result that Yi Chun had said before was different from what He Jin had reported after returning to the city after investigating. Although the demon race's army was eventually annihilated, the process was too different. Originally, Zhongli had been excited because Yi Chun had been able to wipe out the demon army and hadn't thought much about it. Now, Zhongli had to think carefully. To be precise, Zhongli was very angry at the moment. Yi Jin was too King sinister. He actually wanted to lift Yi Chun up high and then throw him to his death. Zhongli didn't want Yi Chun to encounter any danger. Therefore, Zhongli had to hurry to the palace and crush Yi Jin's sinister plan. Of course, the real situation was not different from what Yi Jin had said. If Yi Jin had been bold enough to keep checking the battlefield, he would have found one thing. No one in the army of Samsara City had died. Of course, this was not important. What was important was that what Yi Jin had said had indeed brought a lot of trouble to Yi Chun. Otherwise, Yi Chun would not have come to Zhang Li and lied to him. In the imperial palace, after listening to Zhang Li's narration, Lu Hong couldn't help but be stunned. Then, his eyes suddenly widened. Did Yi Chen's army of Samsara City really suffer heavy losses? Obviously, the emperor of the Han dynasty, Lu Hong, didn't dispel his fear of Yi Chun because of Zhang Li's narration. Your Majesty, what I said is absolutely true. The territory of General of Agile Cavalry has been destroyed. How can it be false? Zhang Li's heart couldn't help but thump when he heard this. Then, he hurriedly bowed and said, "In that case, Father, send someone to investigate." Lu Hong was silent for a moment. Then he said, Zhang Li hurriedly bowed and said, "Your Majesty, I have already sent 10 groups of people to investigate the former territory of General of Agile Cavalry. If General of Agile Cavalry has lied, it will not escape their eyes." "Ha! As expected, Father is still the most loyal to me." Hearing this, Lu Hong laughed and said, Hearing this, Zhang Li directly knelt and shouted, "For your Majesty, I have no regrets even if I have to be smashed to pieces." Chapter 550. Zhang Li spoke with great emotion, but the truth was the complete opposite. Zhang Li did not send anyone to investigate whether Yi Chun was telling the truth. In Zhang Li's opinion, it was impossible for Yi Chun to lie. After all, it was impossible for Samsara City and its 2 million-strong army to be hidden. Of course, this was just Zhang Li's opinion. In fact, the Samsara City had already evolved into the Samsara Immortal City and flew into the sky. As for the 2 million soldiers of the Samsara City, they had all returned to the Samsara Immortal City. No matter who went to the original location of the Samsara City, they could not find anything, even if they searched the entire Great Han Empire. This was the beginner's area of the 3 kingdoms. Except for Yi Chun, no one had the ability to fly. Even if they worked themselves to death, they could not find the traces of the Samsara City and its 2 million soldiers. After hearing Zhang Li's pledge of loyalty, Lu Hong laughed and said with great satisfaction, "I know of your father's loyalty. Of course, I know Father Rang's loyalty. If anyone betrays me, Father Rang will never betray me. Thank you for your trust, Your Majesty." Hearing this, Zhang Li bowed and said excitedly. Lu Hong nodded with a smile and then said, "Father, tell me. Father Rang, tell me, since my General of Agile Cavalry has suffered heavy losses, how should I reward him?" After hearing Yi Jin's story, Lu Hong was afraid of Yi Chun, but this did not affect Yi Chen's contribution. No matter what Lu Hong thought, Yi Chen's contribution could not be ignored, even if he was the emperor of the Great Han Empire. To be precise, Lu Hong must be fair in rewards and punishments. No matter how stupid he was, he could not reward Yi Chun. After all, Yi Chen's contribution was too great. He saved the Great Han Empire, the entire human tribe, and Lu Hong's life. It could be said that Yi Chen's contributions were as great as the heavens. No matter how muddle-headed Lu Hong was and how much he feared Yi Chun, he still had to reward Yi Chun. This was also the main reason why Lu Hong asked Zhang Li. He had no idea how to reward Yi Chun. "Your Majesty, the great General of Agile Cavalry has made a great contribution. I'm afraid that ordinary rewards won't be able to stop people from gossiping. Zhang Li cautiously glanced at Lu Hong when he heard this. Lu Hong nodded and said, "That's right. Father Rang is right. I also feel troubled. If the reward is too low, others will say that I am a fatuous ruler who is jealous of the virtuous and is afraid of the virtuous. If the reward is too high, Lu Hong sighed and said. It was obvious that Lu Hong was not willing to give Yi Chun a large reward. Otherwise, why would he sigh at the mention of a large reward? After Zhang Li heard Lu Hong's words, he immediately breathed a sigh of relief and hurriedly bowed. This world belongs to your majesty. If your majesty wants to reward, it will be rewarded. This is also your majesty's kindness. If anyone dares to gossip, I will fight with them. I know that Father Rang is loyal, but now I have a headache about the reward. Father Rang, quickly help me think about how to reward the great general of agile cavalry." Lu Hong glared at Zhang Li when he heard this, and then said. Zhang Li was silent for a moment when he heard this. He then looked at Lu Hong and said, "Your Majesty, why don't you promote the champion marquis title?" Lu Hong was slightly taken aback, and then he asked. Zhang Li nodded and then said, "That's right. Your Majesty, you see, the scouts who went to explore the territory of the great general of agile cavalry have just set off. For the time being, the great general of agile cavalry has not been able to determine whether the great general of agile cavalry has lost soldiers or generals. If it is true, then the great general of agile cavalry has really suffered a big loss this time. The army that spent a lot of money to build is only left with a pitiful number of soldiers. If the reward is not high, it will definitely disappoint the great general of agile cavalry. If it is false, the title is more appropriate. In this way, the power in the hands of the great general of agile cavalry will not be promoted at all. If your majesty is not at ease, you can find a way to slowly take away the power in the hands of the great general of agile cavalry. In this way, your majesty can sit back and relax." After Zhang Li finished speaking, Lu Hong's eyes suddenly lit up, and then he said with surprise, "Father Rang is right. Father Rang is right. It's settled then. Your Majesty, just the title is not enough. You should know that the great general of agile cavalry's contribution is not small, so other rewards are needed." Zhang Li heard this, suddenly smiled, and then said. Lu Hong was taken aback for a moment before he frowned. Zhang Li saw this, hurriedly bowed and said, "Your Majesty, I'm not talking about the reward of money. It's not a reward of money." Lu Hong heaved a sigh of relief when he heard this and asked. Zhang Li nodded with a smile, and then said, "Your Majesty, compared with the marriage of the princess to the great general of agile cavalry, which is more attractive?" Lu Hong heard this, and then he said, "Princess, of course. No, Father Rang, I only have 2 princes, but I don't have a princess. How can I marry the princess to the great general of agile cavalry?" "Your Majesty, how can there be no princess? I heard that your Majesty has adopted the 2 daughters of Sir George as your adopted daughters. If it is not a princess, then what is it?" Zhang Li heard this, smiled slightly, and then bowed. Lu Hong heard this, and his whole person was suddenly stunned. After a while, Lu Hong recovered. Then he looked at Zhang Li and said excitedly, "Father Rang is right. Father Rang is right. I do have 2 daughters. If the betrothal of my daughters to the general of agile cavalry is not a great reward, then what can be called a great reward?" When Lu Hong said this, he suddenly stood up with a tongue, and then started to walk back and forth excitedly. Zhang Li, who was serving on the side, saw this and suddenly breathed a sigh of relief. Then he bowed with a smile and said, "Congratulations, Your Majesty. The great general of agile cavalry is Your Majesty's irreplaceable son-in-law." "Ha, good. Father Rang is right. This has solved my biggest problem. As long as the great general of agile cavalry becomes my son-in-law, there is nothing to worry about." After hearing Zhang Li's words, Lu Hong suddenly looked up to the sky and laughed wildly, and then said excitedly. Lu Hong was afraid of Yi Chun because Yi Chun's army was too powerful. They could even destroy the monster race army. Now, Lu Hong was not afraid. As long as he adopted the two daughters and married them to Yi Chun, everything would be solved. Because in this way, Yi Chun would become Lu Hong's son-in-law. Once Yi Chun became Lu Hong's son-in-law, they would be family. There would be no rebellion. Of course, the daughters were not biological, but this was not a problem at all. Because this was ancient times, and Lu Hong was the emperor. As long as he recognized the daughters, then the daughters he recognized would be princesses, and the princesses would be recognized by the whole world. Chapter 551. Zhongli looked at the excited Lu Hong, and the smile on his face suddenly widened. Because he handled Yi Chen's matter well. To be precise, he didn't resign like Yi Chen said. Instead, he used his own method to eliminate the fear in Lu Hong's heart step by step. Of course, this also had a lot to do with Zhang Li wanting to matchmake Yi Chen before. If it weren't for Zhang Li's sudden idea to matchmake Yi Chen, and Yi Chen didn't refuse after hearing about it Xiao and Xiao Qiao, Zhang Li might not have thought of this method and put it into action. The result was obvious. Lu Hong completely dispelled his fear of Yi Chen. Not only was it dispelled, but he was also very excited. Just at the moment when Zhang Li was about to speak, Lu Hong suddenly thought of something, and then frowned and asked, "Father, isn't it too much to let the two princesses marry the general of agile cavalry at the same time?" But, Your Majesty, the general of agile cavalry's merit is great. If Your Majesty doesn't marry the two princesses to the general of agile cavalry, the people in the world won't think that Your Majesty values the general of agile cavalry. Zhang Li heard this and suddenly smiled, then bowed and said. Lu Hong thought for a moment, then nodded and said, "Father, you are right. In this case, I will immediately issue an edict to recognize the two daughters of Sir Qiao." Lu Hong suddenly stopped speaking. Seeing this, Zhang Li hurriedly bowed and said, "Your Majesty, the two daughters of Sir Qiao are to Qiao and Xiao Qiao. Well, I will immediately issue an edict to recognize the Qiao and Xiao Qiao as my adopted daughters, and then marry the two princesses to the general of agile cavalry. In addition, the general of agile cavalry will be you of Beach." Lu Hong nodded and said excitedly. Hearing this, Zhang Li nodded with a smile on his face, then said, "That's right. Your Majesty is wise. As long as this edict is issued, the general of agile cavalry will be grateful and follow Your Majesty forever. Your Majesty's country will be more stable, and no one will dare to rebel. If they dare to rebel, they will be killed by the general of agile cavalry. No, you of Beach. Haha, Father Rang is right. This good son-in-law of mine is an unprecedented peerless general. As long as he is here, who would dare to cause trouble?" Lu Hong paused for a moment, then sighed and said, "Father Rang is right. Sigh, what a pity. Why do we lose soldiers and generals? How good would it be if we didn't? Your Majesty, it doesn't matter if the great general of agile cavalry loses soldiers or generals. As long as the great general of agile cavalry soldiers are there, he can have as many of them as he wants." Hearing this, Zhang Li immediately smiled and bowed. Lu Hong nodded and said, "That's right. That's right. My good son-in-law is indeed capable. Why don't we get him to create an army of 10 million people?" When the time comes, we'll leave 8 million in Luoyang. This way, our country will truly be stable. Your Majesty is wise." When Zhang Li heard this, he immediately beamed with joy and bowed. When Lu Hong heard this, he nodded with satisfaction and said, "That's right. Father Rang is going to draft an imperial edict. This matter needs to be done as soon as possible. Your Majesty, I also know that it needs to be done as soon as possible, but will great General Hejin?" Zhang Li nodded heavily and stopped halfway through his words. At the same time, Zhang Ran's expression also became hesitant. When Lu Hong heard this, he couldn't help but be stunned. When Lu Hong saw Zhang Li's hesitant expression, his face suddenly sank. In the next second, Lu Hong said bitterly, "Hejin is really loyal to me. Eugene, that old man. At first, I thought that he was loyal to me, but now it seems that he wants to frame my good son-in-law." When Zhongli heard this, a light flashed in his eyes, and then he said with a serious face, "I also feel that way. The great general of agile cavalry risked his life for the great Han dynasty and for your majesty. He led more than 2 million troops to kill the demon race army and save the great Han dynasty from danger. He has made great contributions. However, great general, he said that the great general of agile cavalry didn't suffer any losses at all when he attacked the demon race. How is this possible? Go, pass the imperial edict. Demote He Jin to a commoner." After Zhang Li's words, the anger in Lu Hong's heart instantly flared up. He looked at Zhang Li and shouted angrily, "What the hell?" When Zhang Li heard this, he was overjoyed. When he was about to take the order, a pitiful cry suddenly came. "No, your majesty." As soon as the voice fell, the person arrived. It was Great General He's sister, Empress He, who led Prince Lu Bian in hurriedly. When Zhongli saw this, he hurriedly recovered his normal expression, and then he bowed to Empress He and Lu Bian. "Your Majesty, Your Highness, I pay my respects to you." When Empress He heard this, she glanced at Zhongli coldly, and then looked at Lu Hong pitifully. Before she saluted and spoke, Lu Hong shouted in a deep voice, "Empress, are you going to interfere with my decision?" "Your Majesty, how dare I interfere with your Majesty?" "But your Majesty, the great general is my brother Bian Er's uncle. Even if he has made a lot of mistakes, he will not betray your Majesty, let alone do anything to harm the Han dynasty." When Empress He heard this, she suddenly showed a miserable expression, and then she said with a choked voice. When Lu Hong heard this, he was furious, and then he shouted violently, "No harm. He Jin, this bastard, is so bold to frame my good son-in-law openly. What does he want to do? Tell me, son-in-law." Empress He was stunned when she heard this, and then she asked, Your Majesty has adopted Sir Qiao's 2 daughters and married them to the great general of agile cavalry." When Zhongli heard this, he bowed and said calmly. When Empress He heard this, her face suddenly changed, but she immediately recovered her calmness. Then she looked at Lu Hong and said miserably, "Your Majesty, the great general has always been loyal. How could he frame the great general of agile cavalry? He hasn't been framed. Let me ask you, is the demon clan terrible? Will the soldiers be hurt when they fight with the demon clan?" When Lu Hong heard this, he snorted coldly and then asked. When Empress He heard this, she was slightly stunned, and then she hurriedly bowed and said, "Your Majesty, the great general of agile cavalry must be a peerless general to be able to destroy the demon clan army. Although I don't know the details of the matter, I am willing to guarantee with my life that the great general has no intention of framing the great general of agile cavalry. Your Majesty, please understand." Empress He naturally didn't know what Jin said after he went into the battlefield to investigate, and she didn't hear what Zhongli said about Jin just now, but this didn't hinder Empress He's inference. It was precisely because Empress He inferred what Jin said from Lu Hong's words that Empress He directly used her life to guarantee Jin. Otherwise, the angry Lu Hong was likely to remove Jin's official position and title, which was not what Empress He wanted to see. After all, she still counted on Jin to help her son, Lu Bian, compete for the crown prince position. Chapter 552. As soon as Empress He finished her words, Prince Lu Bian was stunned. After regaining his senses, Lu Bian hurriedly bowed and said, "Father, uncle won't hurt Prince Consort on purpose. You have to believe him." When Empress He bowed to Lu Hong, she gave a look to Lu Bian who was beside her. Although Empress He's movement was subtle, Lu Bian still saw it. Empress He and Zhongli behind Lu Bian also saw it clearly. At this moment, Zhongli was in a bad mood. Because Lu Bian was a prince, even if Zhongli didn't care about Empress he couldn't ignore Lu Bian. For Zhongli, who was a eunuch, all his wealth came from the emperor. When Lu Hong was on the throne, Zhongli naturally tried his best to please Lu Hong. But when Lu Hong was gone, Lu Bian and Lu Xie would inherit the throne. No matter which prince it was, Zhongli didn't want to offend them. At least, before the crown prince's position was confirmed, Zhongli wouldn't offend anyone easily. If he really offended them, if Lu Bian inherited the throne, Zhongli would die without a burial place. It was also because of this reason that Zhongli was in a bad mood after Lu Bian pleaded for He Jin. Just when Zhongli was in a dilemma, Lu Hong's anger dissipated by more than half. After a few breaths, Lu Hong looked at Lu Bian's young eyes and asked softly, "Bian, do you really think He Jin is right?" Reporting to Imperial Father, Uncle definitely wouldn't deliberately frame Prince Consort. Hearing this, Lu Bian's young face was filled with panic. Then, he said with some difficulty. Hearing this, Lu Hong couldn't help but sigh, because of Lu Bian's panic, and also because Lu Bian didn't have his own opinions. Originally, Lu Hong had wanted to listen to Lu Bian's reason. It didn't matter how far-fetched it was. But the result disappointed Lu Hong. In Lu Hong's opinion, Lu Bian's panic and lack of opinions were not what a qualified emperor should have. Even though Lu Hong himself didn't have much of an opinion and was often muddle-headed, Lu Hong had never thought that he was such a person. In Lu Hong's eyes, he was the most brilliant emperor in the Great Han Empire. Therefore, his son had to be equally brilliant. Unfortunately, in Lu Hong's eyes, Lu Bian was a little disappointed. After Lu Hong showed a disappointed look, Empress He bowed and stood up. Her heart couldn't help but skip a beat. How could Empress He not see the disappointment in Lu Hong's eyes? That was why Empress He was so shocked. That was because if Lu Hong was disappointed, then the possibility of her son, Lu Bian, becoming the crown prince would be greatly reduced. This was not what Empress He wanted to see. At the moment when Empress He was anxious but couldn't do anything for the time being, Zhongli suddenly bowed to Lu Hong and said, "Your Majesty, I think that General He Jin might have been frightened by the strength of the army in Samsara City." Then he made the judgment that General of Agile Cavalry could destroy the army of the Demon Clan without being hurt. "Yes, Your Majesty, General He must have made a mistake. Your Majesty, please verify it." Empress He was a little surprised when she heard that. Then she hurriedly bowed to Lu Hong and said. Lu Bian, who was next to Empress He, heard that and nodded hard. Then he said, "Father, I also think so. I haven't seen Uncle many times, but I always feel that he is a little muddle-headed, vulgar, and uncultured." Hearing Lu Bian's words, Empress He was stunned. She never expected that her son, Lu Bian, would say that about He Jin. But behind them, Zhongli's eyes suddenly lit up. Obviously, Lu Bian's words reminded Zhongli of something. Otherwise, he wouldn't have acted like this. As for Lu Hong, he looked at Lu Bian in surprise. After a few seconds of silence, Lu Hong suddenly showed a smile on his face. Then he laughed and said, "That's my good son. Ha ha, Bian is right. He Jin, this old man, is a vulgar person. Moreover, he is full of nonsense. All right, this He Jin used to be a butcher. He is really uncultured." Lu Bian was very nervous because of Lu Hong's silence. Now when he heard Lu Hong's happy tone, he suddenly relaxed and said excitedly, "Father, you also think so?" I want to say it for a long time. Before Lu Bian finished his words, he was interrupted by Empress He. "Bian, don't be rude. You are a prince, second only to one person. You must be polite." Yes, mother." When Lu Bian heard this, he immediately trembled, then bowed and said. On the side, Lu Hong frowned, but he didn't say anything. After all, Empress He scolded Lu Bian. What she said was reasonable. Lu Hong had no reason to reprimand Empress He. Just when Lu Hong didn't know how to continue speaking, Zhongli bowed with a smile and said, "Your Majesty, should we announce the reward of the great general of Agile Cavalry now, or should we wait until tomorrow at the imperial court?" Hearing this, Lu Hong immediately gave up the idea of talking to Empress He. He looked directly at Zhongli and said, "General of Agile Cavalry, Yi Chun, is my good son-in-law and son-in-law. Not only did he eliminate the Golden Turban, but he also eradicated the Demon Clan. It can be said that his military service is outstanding and unparalleled in the world. Naturally, his reward can't be delayed. At this point, Lu Hong was silent for a moment before he opened his mouth and shouted, "Pass the imperial edict. The daughters of Duke Xiao, De Qiao and Xiao Qiao, are unparalleled in intelligence. From now on, De Qiao and Xiao Qiao are my daughters. De Qiao is conferred the title of Princess Zhaoyang, and Xiao Qiao is Princess Changle." As soon as Lu Hong finished speaking, the world announcement sounded. Ding! The Emperor of the Han Dynasty, Lu Hong, has recognized the superclass historical beauty, De Qiao and Xiao Qiao, as his adopted daughters. De Qiao is conferred the title of Princess Zhaoyang, and Xiao Qiao is Princess Changle. The world announcement was repeated 3 times in a row, instantly causing the world channel to explode. F***CK. F***CK. What's going on? How did Lu Hong, this idiot, recognize De Qiao and Xiao Qiao as his daughters? F***CK. There's no such thing in history. I'm also F***King curious. De Qiao and Xiao Qiao shouldn't have any interactions with Lu Hong, right? F***CK. Not only do they not have any interactions, but how old are De Qiao and Xiao Qiao now? How did Lu Hong know that De Qiao and Xiao Qiao are unparalleled in intelligence? There must be a conspiracy. F***CK. Could it be that someone told Lu Hong that the bridge was small and beautiful, and then Lu Hong, this old bastard, had some ideas? What ideas? Do you think this is modern times? This is ancient times. No one dares to mess around with human relations. Bullshit. So what if it's ancient times? Don't forget that Wu Zetian followed Li Shimin and his son. You're digressing. I just want to know why Lu Hong wants to recognize his daughters and confer them the title of princess. Just as the players were discussing amongst themselves, the world announcement sounded again. Ding! The special conditions have been met. The superclass historical beauties, De Qiao and Xiao Qiao, have been automatically unsealed and have officially grown to 16 years old. Chapter 553. As soon as the world announcement ended, the originally lively world channel instantly boiled over. F***CK. De Qiao and Xiao Qiao actually became 16 years old. Damn, this is definitely man-made. Nonsense. De Qiao and Xiao Qiao have never interacted with Lu Hong in history. Now that Lu Hong has acknowledged them as his daughters, it would be strange if no one changed history. F***CK. Who is so awesome to actually change history? It doesn't matter who changed history. What's important is that this person definitely planned it beforehand. Otherwise, how could a Qiao and Xiao Qiao become princesses? This way, their futures will be completely changed. The problem lies here. If the future changes, then De Qiao and Xiao Qiao's eventual ownership is uncertain. Isn't this good? De Qiao and Xiao Qiao, damn, they're super beauties in history. This is great, we all have a chance. That's right, princesses. Damn, if you marry any one of them, you will become a relative of the royal family. When the time comes, even if you want to conquer the world, it will be a legitimate pretense. Dream on. With Yi Chen around, do you still want to conquer the world? He will teach you how to be a person in minutes. Damn, why do I feel that this matter has something to do with Yi Chen? Don't. If it has something to do with Yi Chen, then damn, De Qiao and Xiao Qiao will be taken in by Yi Chen again. That's not a good thing. Just as the players were discussing intensely, the world announcement sounded again. Ding, General of Agile Cavalry, Yi Chen, has outstanding military service. He has saved the great Han Dynasty from danger and saved the human race. His merits are splendid. General of Agile Cavalry, Yi Chen, is hereby conferred as Yu of Beach, hereditary. The world announcement was repeated 3 times in a row, instantly causing the entire world channel to explode. F***CK. F***CK. Yi Chen has been conferred as a king? How is this possible? Yi Chen's surname is Yi, not Lu. F*CK. So be it. What's there to be surprised about? Don't you think about Yi Qin's contributions? F*CK. Most of the golden turtles were destroyed by Yi Qin, and 99% of the demon army was destroyed by Yi Qin. That's not the point, okay? The point is that Lu Hong is muddle-headed. But F*King muddle-headed. He can't be that muddle-headed, right? He even dares to give himself the title of king of a different surname. Idiot. Why don't you look at the truth? Yi Qin's contributions were not great, but in the end, Yi Qin only received the title of prince. What's the use of that? It's all fake. T. So what if it's fake? Don't forget that this is ancient times. Having the title of prince is a righteous cause. Compared to military power, it's more suitable for Yi Qin. You have to know that Yi Qin is already the great general of light cavalry. If he gets promoted, how far can he go? Why can't he get promoted? Don't forget that there's still the position of great general that commands the world's armies. If Yi Qin becomes a great general, once Lu Hong dies, Yi Qin will have even more reasons to send troops. He can just make up an excuse and ask people to lead troops wherever they go. If they don't go, it'll be disobeying orders. If that's the case, Yi Qin can use this as an excuse to send troops as he pleases. Don't be so full of yourself. Who is Yi Qin? He's a F*King pervert. Why would he need an excuse to send troops? Are you F*King kidding me? Just as the players were discussing in shock after Yi Qin was conferred the title of prince, a world announcement sounded out once again. Princess de Qiao, Princess Changle, and you of Beach, Yi Qin, are a match made in heaven. In order to create a beautiful couple, Princess de Qiao, Princess Changle, and Princess de Qiao, Princess Changle, are betrothed to you of Beach, Yi Qin. All ceremonies will be handled by the Ministry of Rites and the Imperial Astronomer. The wedding will be held on a good day. When the new world announcement appeared, the entire world channel instantly quieted down. A few seconds later, the world channel turned into a frenzy of messages. F*CK. F*CK. I knew something wasn't right. Someone must have deliberately rewritten to Qiao and Xiao Qiao's history. Now, it's really F*King true. F*CK. This daddy also thought of this. I even suspected that it was Yi Qin's doing. Who would have thought that it really was F*CK? Yi Qin, you're already so perverted. Why the hell do you insist on taking away all the top-notch historical beauties? That's right, F*CK. Those are to Qiao and Xiao Qiao. He's already taken in so many historical beauties. Do you think he can handle it all? There's no justice in this world. F*King Yi Qin, this daddy isn't even prepared to fight for hegemony. But you're F*King good. Not only do you want to fight for hegemony, you're not even leaving the beauties for us. Are you trying to incite public outrage? You're wrong. This has already incited public outrage. Yi Qin is too shameless. F*CK. He's taking in everything and not leaving anything for us. Is there still any justice in this world? F*CK. Everyone, don't admit defeat. Yi Qin, that bastard, actually wants to eat all the beauties for himself. We definitely can't let him have his way. As long as we work together, it's not like we can't defeat Yi Qin. Dream on. Boss Yi Qin is the most awesome. It's useless even if you all work together. That's right, that's right. No matter how many people there are, no matter if they're human or not, they're all trash in front of Boss Yi Qin. The World Channel was abuzz with activity as it was constantly flooded with comments. It was a lively scene. Yi Qin, who was walking towards the entrance of Luoyang City, was slightly taken aback. Then, he raised his eyebrows. Yi Qin had already guessed that the world announcement would appear. After all, Zhongli had gone to the palace. With Zhongli's special ability of pointing a deer as a horse, it was easy for him to trick Lu Hong. But what Yi Qin didn't expect was that Lu Hong actually acknowledged Qiao and Xiao Qiao as his daughters. He even betrothed Qiao and Xiao Qiao to him. Yi Qin naturally knew what Lu Hong's goal was. He wanted to use his status as son-in-law and son-in-law to tie down Yi Qin, so that Yi Chun would do his best to work for Lu Hong. Of course, it was more for safety. To be precise, Lu Hong lacked a sense of security. Only by using marriage to tie down Yi Chun would Lu Hong feel at ease. Yi Chun could see that, and he did not object to it. After all, De Qiao and Xiao Qiao were first-rate historical beauties. In fact, Yi Chun had originally planned to take a walk around the Great Han Empire when he was free. Then he would capture all the historical beauties in one fell swoop. Among them, De Qiao and Xiao Qiao were at the forefront. And now, Lu Hong had betrothed De Qiao and Xiao Qiao to Yi Chun. How could Yi Chun refuse? Of course, Yi Chun couldn't refuse either. After all, Yi Chun didn't want to fight for hegemony at this point in time. Therefore, Yi Chun wouldn't disobey the decree unless it was Lu Hong's decree that was extremely unfavorable to Yi Chun. Zhongli was indeed Zhongli. The famous great eunuch was really not simple. Zhongli asked him to help dispel Lu Hong's fear of Samsara City. Unexpectedly, he came up with a better way than dispelling Lu Hong's fear. Good, 2 birds with 1 stone. No, 3 birds with 1 stone. Thinking of this, Yi Chun couldn't help but smile. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.